We are red. Red is on time being.
Okay, today is Thursday, September 21st, 2017. The time is 4:48. Let this meeting of the Tilton Board of Selectmen now come to order. Please let the record show John Scanlon has not joined us as yet. He's on his way, and the rest of the board is here. Shall we all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's go right into the minutes of September 7th, please.
Under the 457 parking signs, under Selectman Constantino suggested obtaining written clarification from New Hampshire Municipal Association, of whose authority prevails, instruct the chief to attend next week meeting, then decide whether to remove the signs or not. That was a discussion, and in that discussion it was a suggestion, and then it was spoken by the chair that we were going to do that, and also there was one other thing that we were going to do, and have the chief attend next meeting. That doesn't really, it just merely says it's a suggestion by Selectman Constantino. It was a group discussion, and it was the consensus of the board that Selectman Constantino would do that. Nice.
Hello.
No crutches.
Oh, that's what this was.
Oh yeah, put it on.
Have you stumbled or tripped at all?
The officer with the crutches.
Oh, like junior kids.
He said, oh, I know him. I personally think that there was a much larger discussion under the Public Works Director, under the flail mower, and I think we're missing some of it here. I think it's very abbreviated.
Would you like to add
Too
more
abbreviated.
language?
Well, there was a discussion about the, taking the money out of the SB 38 money. There isn't.
Is there anything specific you'd like to have put in? Or just add more language to it?
I think we should just add more language to it. I think it's a little too abbreviated. I think 2 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, when somebody reads this, it's way too abbreviated to exactly how we determined that we would purchase an $8,500.
It does kind of hang where it says, John Scanlon noted sooner or later does affect the taxpayer. He's suggesting adding the expense to the budget for next year. It does kind of hang there. It doesn't really, explain why we decided to take it out of the fund.
Right. There's a lot more discussion that went on.
So you could go back and listen and beef it up some. Thank you. Anything else on the minutes?
I'm not finished.
I'm sorry.
Wendy.
I have a bottle of water up on my
No, I got
refrigerator. Oh.
I would suggest that when you say Selectman Dawson closed the public hearing, where it's on a different page, that we say Selectman Dawson closed the public hearing on the police cruiser equipment, special detail, whatever you have on the previous page when she opened it, whatever she said on opening it. Otherwise, if that ever gets disconnected, we don't have, it just says what the public, it doesn't say what the public hearing is for. See that on page 3?
Motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, September 7th, 2017 with the suggested changes. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. Right. John isn't here yet. killing a little bit of time, hoping John will come up. Dennis Manning came before us, as you can see in the minutes. We did not have a resolution to this. Selectman Scanlon made the suggestion, but we said that we would discuss the matter and get back to him. Does anybody have an opinion?
You stick with what was proposed at town meeting.
I agree with
Dennis.
this. The resident, Dennis Manning, who came before us, wanted us to give him a special exception for diverting from the trash and recycling program.
So he doesn't want trash now.
Right, and what did he say? He would,
He did not want to have to bring his cans down to the street. He wanted to continue to be able to bring his garbage to the Department of Public Works without having to buy purple bags to dispose of it.
I feel like we should help make that work for him. I don't know the answer yet, but I thought the sticker was a good idea, but we would need to make sure that,
I think he should have to comply with the ordinance at town meeting voted on.
He was at town meeting when everybody in the legislative body made a vote, and the legislative body holds. And they all said, regardless of what we felt was right or wrong or indifferent or how our opinion was, they said, you will do it this way.
well, and he did speak up and say,
Well, he did,
At
but
that
the
time.
legislative body voted against his way. And we don't have a control over that.
And he didn't come up with anything, you know, that he's disabled or handicapped or any special, there's
yeah, but I
nothing.
didn't think what he was asking was unreasonable.
He doesn't want to have to pay for purple bags, he wants to just.
He doesn't want to have to cart his recycling and municipal solid waste a couple hundred yards down a driveway to the road. And Caleb Hill, as it is, probably is one of the better roads to put stuff on the side of the road to begin with because there's really no shoulders. But again, we create winners and losers. Downtown get winners, they get dumpsters and all. Someone outside wants something simple and it's like, nope, you can't have it.
But it doesn't, I don't think it has to be black and white.
John had the perfect solution.
I don't think that's.
3 bags, give him 3 bags, and he'll even settle on less, I think, because he doesn't produce that much
Purple
garbage.
bags.
Okay,
Yeah.
but why would we supply this
Exactly,
one
you're gonna-
resident
you're
with
gonna
purple
have to do it
bags when
next
everyone else has to buy them?
Right.
No, I don't think.
Because
we
he's
should give
not
him
using the 96-gallon, would you rather him do the 96-gallon bins and,
I don't
I'd
think.
like him, I think that everyone should conform to the,
but they don't. We have dumpsters in here because it's too congested. We're not the same.
we don't have dumpsters in downtown Tilton.
I think it's a reasonable request, that's an easy fix. We don't have to give them purple bags, and I would say let's save the purple bags. We've been told that they don't expire, so even though we have an ungodly amount.
It's not an easy fix though, because if you bend the rules
But
for one, you're gonna bend the rules for the
But what I'm
others.
saying is we don't need to bend the rules. We can still say, yes, you can bring a cart full.
That's
So
an-
whether we limit that to 3 bags, it doesn't have
That's
to be
an
a purple bag.
exception to the rule.
Why is that an exception? You
Because
still-
town meeting voted,
I don't think anybody would disagree. I say anybody who wants to do it that way.
that's not what town meeting voted for. Town meeting voted
But how is it hurting us?
because it's not what the program that town meeting voted for us to implement. And we gave them specific choices.
They didn't say it. They didn't,
Right, you didn't.
opt to go against this though.
The recyclables or the MSW refuse generated in excess of the 3 bags in the 96-gallon bid would require the purchase of town of Tilton
Correct.
trash purple bags to be
He's not
collected
doing that.
He's not having
curbside.
He's
excess.
not doing that.
To see if the vote will continue the curbside municipal solid waste and curbside collection of stream recyclables using separate 96-gallon automated bins for solid waste and a separate 96-gallon automated bin for recyclables. That's what town meeting voted for. That's the program that they said we are going to use. I didn't agree with it, but I
Can't
do
we
it.
amend things?
I think it would be
Cannot
very
amend
easy.
town meeting.
Delete that, but we can just, he's not asking to dump any extra trash.
And you're absolutely right.
If anything,
It
we're
would be-
saving on barrels.
In reality, it would be a very easy fix. However, the legislative body voted one way. We can't go against the legislative body like
Is that against?
So do they approve every ordinance we've created?
No.
No, they don't have to
The Board
apply
of
to the
Selectmen
unions. Huh?
chose to bring this to the legislative body. We did, they voted, this is the program. And I don't think we have the authority to give people immunity from what the legislative body voted for us and instructed us to implement.
Well, then, before we decide, let's seek an opinion.
Okay? Joyce? will you
Well,
go down?
if the legal comes back and says, no way, you can't, fine, it's settled. If they come back the other way, then there may be some wiggle room.
Because, I mean, think of it this way. We say, okay, you don't have to abide by the program voted in a legislative meeting. You just continue to take your bags down to the town garage. And then everybody east of 93 comes in and said, well, I don't want to take part in the program.
That would be great. Save on my barrels.
But you're gonna add on the other right,
Yeah.
you end up paying twice though.
So now we've completely ignored
We're
the
minimizing.
legislative body.
We're minimizing the waste that's picked up as opposed to the waste that's in the.
But you're adding the cost of having the waste picked up at the,
But you're reducing,
It
you
Doesn't
can reduce
matter
stops,
if you're
which reduces.
adding or reducing, you are ignoring a mandate from the legislative body. And that is to
And it's
implement
gonna
this
cost you
program. And it doesn't say accept.
And it's gonna cost the next poor highway guys down there, because how do they know working that people, no, I have permission to this.
If you give them purple bags free, it's pretty obvious.
But Joyce, will you check in on getting an opinion from what the government center on us being able to deviate from? Thank you. And I texted John and he's still not here. Can you give him 5 more minutes? 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. Does anybody have anything real quick?
I do.
Okay.
We really, really, really need to do something with that railing out front on the ramp, on the side here on the ramp. Well, let's not ask Brock because that is a safety issue. Clearly a safety issue. Someone is going to get hurt. And if we know about that issue, which we did 3 weeks ago, it's on us. So let's do something. If Brock knows about a solution, let's do something.
If the railing was put in unstable, why aren't we calling the contractor that reinstalled it?
Because the caveat they're saying that there's no guarantees, once you remove something like that, that it's going to go back in exactly the way that it was. Also, you had pointed out that, because the elevations could be off, and also there was no footing, he was not responsible for any footing or anything for the railing. So he took it off and put it back. So,
Well, now we have an issue
It's just a metal
with,
plate underneath.
you know, handicap, with elderly, and a lot of people going down that ramp. And they're looking to feel secure going down that ramp, and you hold on to that, and it's wobbly. And you don't expect it. When you hold on to it, it's...
well, maybe the Robert's going to fix it, if not, I'll call a building contractor.
I think that needs to be, my opinion, as a selectman, I think that needs to be, I remember a bridge that was said, as long as we knew about the problem and we fixed it immediately, not really accountable for it. So let's fix it immediately. That's my opinion. We know about the issue. It's a safety issue. I can't live with myself if somebody gets hurt on that knowing that we've known about it for 3 weeks.
Do we have our proposed budget?
No, audit's going to
Something done.
That was my understanding we were gonna have a budget before tonight.
Yeah, he
Oh,
said he
so
was gonna.
maybe before the end of the evening?
He said it's really hurts.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I brought this up to a few people. Brock was one of them. The shoes out here.
Oh,
Like, I think that's sending the wrong message, and it's embarrassing.
on
How
the
can we get
wires.
it down?
On the wires.
Anybody?
That's, Eversource. Public Works can't take those down.
Have you ever called them yet? I don't know if we talked about that.
Eversource.
event was out at the time, but I don't recall.
Is that really what that means?
Meeting fee, that's what it is.
Well, either way, even if it was fitness, we need to take pride in our town.
Have them look at Tim's report, he's got a comment about the budget, waiting on the determination of dispatch.
Oh.
It's still another day that we have to wait for. Maybe just give it.
Is Tim still here?
Yes.
I would like to budget with as close to the PD budget as possibly can get. It's a draft budget. We can make a change later. It's not a final budget, but we can at least be, I mean, quite frankly, for me, even if the PD budget is blank, at least I can look at everything else. But can we get a message to him downstairs to, oh, you're awesome, thank you. Because we have to schedule department heads,
Tell
do
them we
we
want
not?
it as is, right now,
When are we scheduled?
last week.
The 29th of November, we're scheduled to present it to the budget committee.
Budget review is on the agenda, like,
Right, it's not on the
Talking about
agenda.
the
I'm
budget
looking what we're
committee.
gonna present it to the budget committee. And
That's
it's
the
kinda,
29th.
kinda running out of time.
well, no, budget review was on the agenda and then it was removed. So
Because we don't have a budget.
I was talking about with the budget committee reviewing it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be confusing. Okay. And Joyce, did we get the narrative from the geotechnical data?
Yes, and I emailed it to everybody. It's in your folder.
It's the actual document itself.
I have this, the email.
There's a second one that had a document.
You read it, Catherine, the other day? I made copies that you read and it's in your folders. That yellow highlight?
I have the email. Yes, I'm looking for the explanation, the summary. But the attached data and email, the summary should be, yeah, a written report will
Preliminary
follow.
report, yes, let me see when I emailed it all to you. I do have a copy here.
Very clear. I think that
Especially the air conditioning. How come they're so far away? So far.
September 18th.
Yeah, when's the
Nothing.
administrative to sit over here during our meeting? All right, we're gonna get to quarter past. If John's not here, we'll go ahead and get started. Because I don't have anything more that's gonna take just a few minutes. The MetroCast discussion is gonna take a few minutes, I think.
I did the senior center electric.
You do have that estimate?
I do, I forwarded it to everyone. Did everyone see it?
Do you have a paper copy? I'm sorry.
Oh, I did see something like that.
So Joyce, I'm a little confused. This letter dated September 19th from Catherine Miller. We didn't sign an agreement with her.
No, we didn't. I called when the selectman said to have her get further clarification on the letter. I called and left her a voicemail and said that this really isn't necessary. And then the next day I got a call from John Radigan who said, Joyce, completely disregard the letter and she's already done the work.
So I guess we don't have to sign that contract.
No, the part that still does apply is what her time is. So they will send us a bill for whatever the time was. It's important that we make our fee arrangement clear. She bills at $195 an hour.
Yep. We didn't have any areas of non-compliance with the franchise agreement, did we? I mean, none that I'm aware of.
To be honest with you, I just got the letter. When did I get the letter?
Right, but we've not
Today. I
had,
just gave it to today. I didn't read it.
right, but we haven't had anybody complain, maybe the service, but non-compliance of our franchise agreement with MetroCast. We don't have anything there.
No, everything that they were supposed to do with the franchise agreement, they have done.
That's what I thought.
But it's service that's, and they did give us an updated map and updated statistics.
Okay, and Mr. Merrill, is that his name? Yes, he was in, so,
Yes, Mr. Merrill.
okay.
So service appears to be a problem.
All right, well, that's interesting.
Yes, so,
I wonder what she'd do if we just, never mind. We should decided not to go forward. All right.
and that was under
Just
my
send that to
agenda
that
items
printer
to
over there.
present.
Open.
Has John responded to you?
Not that I know of, unless it was making too loud a noise to hear the beep. No. He may not be in a position right now, maybe driving.
Is it the meeting room printer? Which one?
May I look over your shoulder? What did they come up with?
If you can read that. It's $600, but there was knob and tube, and there was a 20 amp wired into the other one, a 15 amp service. The fans are knob and tube. Can you print from yours or no? Because I just forwarded it to you.
Is it John?
John read it, yeah. He understood it.
No, I think
He
John's
said-
coming.
Okay.
Is that a
Hi, John.
fixture?
I emailed it to you, but it's a-
John, you understood all the electrical thing that he was saying on there?
Thank you,
You
John.
better explain it.
Range superconductors at 15 amp. Range
Oh, on that,
superconductor.
yeah.
The knob and tube senior center.
DJ digital wiring.
Did notice that there was a 20-amp breaker on that knob and tube. Somewhere down the line, usually knob and tube is a 10-amp screw-in fuse. At the most, it's a 15 amp because it's a lighting circuit. Somebody put a 20 amp in there, which is usually always. And knob and tube wiring is not rated for.
No,
20
it's
amps.
not. That's why I don't understand why they don't make us get rid of it.
Yeah, they should have gotten rid of it before they upgraded to a 20 amp on that circuit. And you can't
So-
run 20 amp on that.
This estimate is just to replace that wiring? Or is it to correct this? That's what I'm having a hard time understanding.
Yes, it's to correct the circuit on
Just-
this,
Take out all the garbage, put
yes,
in the
on
good.
up the stage, which is where the old, everything else has been corrected.
Seems like reasonable.
Yeah.
You can do it as early as tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
So, what does the board want to do?
Does everybody,
I'm still, okay, I see it right here. I'm just looking.
You see it? So it's We have 4 fans in the main hall and 2 lights on the stage, and then there's the side lighting, so there's knob and tube mixed in with that. So he's going to change those circuits into updated circuit, the updated wiring, and that's $600 to do that. So that would change. The rest of the senior center is pretty well updated, rewired.
Right, do
Well, it's the same
we want to come back to this? So we
Yeah,
go
we
into
can.
the non-public
Yeah, we
just-
to address.
So we waited for you to discuss.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, I'm going to make a motion to go into non-public. I believe it was A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Bog, yes.
Dawson, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Thank you.
We are red is on, time being 5:32.
Chairman, okay. I did receive a phone call from somebody saying that they couldn't hear us
I did
on
too,
the
thank
speakers.
you.
So if everybody can pull their microphones in, and I'm sure Gail has a rough time doing the minutes, which she has to.
It was rough, but we.
What?
Is it a change? Is it a
Thank you,
change?
John.
I don't know what happened, but it was horrible.
Did we
Well-
fix it? Did anybody
Yes.
come up and,
Yes.
okay.
Is that a difference between the planning board and the budget and the selectmen all being meeting up here? They're making different adjustments?
Could very well be.
Could we leave a note on the table, please do not adjust the audio?
That'd be great.
I think
I
part
think
of
it's the device over here, isn't it?
Right.
Part of it is these microphones are made to cancel out background noise. So if you are a distance away from it, it will cancel your voice out. If you're close to it, it will pick up on your voice. So you have to have that, let's say, 10 inches from your face if possible. Thanks for my public service announcement.
That was a good one, because I got some calls too. All right,
No, I just asked, and they said, no, we wouldn't help. Oh, but that's okay, I mean, I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
we should just kind
Uh-huh, it is.
of, look,
That's okay, I should have just. After I found all this stuff,
you did,
I did,
nice job.
and I started writing it, unfortunately, Rick is supposed to be here tonight,
Okay,
so I just bought some more time.
so, are we having a discussion?
Take this right out of
It's
there.
on Center for Public Health.
So we're not gonna discuss WRTA tonight?
I just found the material that was listed.
I didn't know this was a
Madam Chair.
two-parter, okay. When is Rick gonna be able to join us?
It was back from vacation now, so I'll do this.
Okay,
Madam Chair, one important thing, I make the motion that we seal the minutes of the non-public as they pertain to personnel permanently.
second, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Bog, yes.
St. John, yes.
Constantino, yes.
Dawson,
Scanlon, yes.
I don't think that needs to be a roll call vote, but it's cool anyway. Thank you. All right, so, Partnership for Public Health? Of course.
And I'm Susan Laverack. I'm the Associate Director at the Partnership for Public Health. I think I know Catherine, Kat, and
Ashley, St. John.
Ashley. Hi. Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
I'm the odd one if you look at the signs. Yeah, I'm a good guy. They're all black. Holding out on me.
Yeah, sure. My name is Shelley Carita, and I'm the Executive Director for the Partnership for Public Health. And we're here today just to tell you a little bit about what we do.
We are an organization that started back in, I'd say 2005. 2005 we organized because there really wasn't any type of public health. Am I hearing me all right? Should I talk louder?
You gotta
Oh.
lean in, push it
Oh.
towards you a little bit.
Okay, there we go. So there really wasn't any public health organization, similar to, like, let's say the Nashua or Manchester, they have public health departments. So we got together and convened and started doing public health activities. About a couple of years ago, we started working on we developed the Community Health Improvement Plan, and I just passed out a summary of the Community Health Improvement Plan, and we're the agency that's charged with, like, implementing the activities under the improvement plan. So there's a number of different areas. There's childhood obesity, for example, of course, substance misuse prevention. There is, taking care of seniors, and there's a number of priorities that are outlined in the plan. If you look on the back of this sheet right here, that shows you the different work groups that are working to implement this improvement plan. And we meet in Tilton, actually, at the Franklin Savings Bank Community Center once a month, and it's called the Winnipesaukee Public Health Council. And that's what Rick Silverberg's very involved in the council work, so that's his involvement, and he was one of the folks that actually helped develop the Community Health Improvement Plan, along with several others. So that's a lot of what we do. In addition to that, we run the service link in Belknap County and out here, and so we're very active out here in the Tilton area. I think last year we helped 321 of your seniors with either Medicaid counseling or helping them transition out of the hospital, and the phone is ringing off the hook with, as you can imagine, with the aging population that's aging. In addition to all of this, we also do emergency and disaster preparedness and some work in the schools, so I'll let Susan tell you a little bit more about it.
Hello again, it's me. I've been here before, and happy to be here to report on emergency preparedness activities in the region. So our public health entity covers 15 municipalities in the region, and via the U.S. Census, the last estimate, that's about 80,000 people. That's before there may be a surge related to seasonal activities, and so on. So I prepare for getting medication to people, 80,000 people plus, during a public health emergency, and that's anywhere from anthrax, bioterrorism attack, in which case that would be a pill, to something like the bird flu or another kind of an illness that requires a vaccine. Smallpox, you may have heard of that plan in the past. So these are things that we know are never going to happen, and we pray that they're never going to happen. But through those partnerships, and we have a strong one here in Tilton, of course, Chief Cormier is very involved in our activities, and we're happy to report that he participates regularly. We also have a partnership with the Tilton Northfield Fire Chief, Chief Sitar, and work with him as well. So just an overview of last year, in August, we had a strategic national stockpile test over here at Winnisquam High School with the aid of partners, including we had law enforcement and state police and National Guard and so on. And that exercise was to demonstrate our ability to receive large quantities of medication and store them and then push them out to various populations. We do have an agreement with the Tilton Senior Home, Tilton Veterans Home, They're an official closed pod, and what that means is when the medication comes, it's going to be difficult to provide enough staff for 80,000 people coming to that site. So what we have done is reached out to various larger facilities to have an agreement that 1 or 2 people would come to the dispensing site and pick up the medication and administer it themselves. So that's a little highlight of what we've done last year. This past, well, actually in October, with Chief Cormier's request, we provided 11 volunteers via the Community Emergency Response Team, and I attended as well his active shooter drill, which was held over at the Tilton Mall. More recently, the community has decided that in a large-scale public health emergency, we will not be able to use the Tilton schools, the Winnisquam Middle or High School, as the primary point of dispensing. It was really a traffic-related glitch. Cars coming in and out on a small road. So the primary point of dispensing is going to be, for your municipality, the Lakes Region Community College. Now, it doesn't mean that we've thrown away the plans for the Winnisquam schools. We may have several sites up and activated at one time, but given the medical capacity we'll need to pull this off, we have selected one primary site. And I think that's it.
How many other towns go to the Lakes?
All 16 of them. We.
Go into the Lakes Region
That's correct.
Community College?
That's right, yeah. Yep. And we tested that in July of this year, and we looked at because buildings change, and you have an agreement with a building, and suddenly that one room that you thought you could use, you don't have total control of. They now have put a series of classrooms in there with a large amount of equipment, so we had to change our plan. So what questions do you have?
I get to,
Always has a question.
Of course, Joyce, go ahead.
So you work with, say,
I don't know if I'm using the right initials, but it's Ken Norton's group in NAMI. Do you work?
Yes.
Because right now, in addition to, like, all the focus and emphasis right now is on opioid abuse. But one of the things I've spoken with their organization about is that there's really no facilities or counseling services that are available for people that are suffering from like a critical mental health incident. And I didn't know if you were involved in getting people together to address that issue, because there's just no facilities available other than an emergency room, or you know, when especially teenagers and young adults are suffering from mental illness. And it's just now that the stigma, first the
Right.
stigma was always alcohol and drugs and heroin and all that, and now we're slowly getting rid of the stigma of mental illness.
well, we do work closely with NAMI. In fact, I actually signed a contract with them yesterday on a suicide prevention program, and others, and another program as well. But we are also involved in a much larger project. It's designed to help facilitate better coordination for people with substance misuse issues, mental health, and try to, reduce emergency room admissions. So it's a demonstration project. There were 7 regions in the state that got funded for this. And so we're working to develop a really coordinated network of care. So these folks are going to have better outcomes. The people from the mental health centers are going to know what the primary care physicians are going to know about mental health issues, and everything is going to be a coordinated process, and with the whole goal of like reducing people that are going to be presenting to the emergency rooms. We're going to be ramping up outpatient services so that there'll be more of them. And I know Maggie Pritchard, who runs Genesis, could be better to speak with this, but it's a big demonstration project that's going to last for about 5 years to kind of put this in place. So it's going to be a very coordinated. We know it's a problem. It's a big problem, and that's why we were awarded funding to facilitate that project. So.
And there wouldn't be any problem, see, with mental health services goes strictly by county. So someone in Carroll County or Merrimack County, they couldn't call Genesis for help.
They'll go to Riverbend, yeah.
Right. So is there any coordination with similar with services with Riverbend and?
So there, at our agency, we have Kelly Gaspa, who we can share her contact information with you. So she works in all of the communities that are our public health region around the continuum of care, that is from prevention, treatment, recovery. So she has a full spectrum of services. It's not direct services. She coordinates care teams throughout our public health region. This other project, what is it called? IDN, the demonstration project that Shelley is speaking about, they have a different geographic area. Ours includes southern Grafton County, all the way over to Belknap and some other towns. So there's that separate project. They're working on a transformation project that's big. It's a 5-year project. But our staff is available to come out and speak with or help the community. I mean, I'm sure Kelly's been over here, and also Carrie Lowe, maybe, you recognize those. We'll let you know their contact information.
And also, our population that our police department has to interact with, many of them have mental health issues. And so it'd be nice to know if, what resources we have, how do we get these people into some sort of program or treatment or...
And I agree with Shelley. I think the best contact, because you're in the region for Genesis Behavioral Health, Maggie Pritchett, that would be a direct question to her. And she.
But you all work together, right?
Partners.
We all work together, absolutely.
Okay.
And she's the expert, and she's very involved in that demonstration project. And the whole goal is to actually get people. I mean, they don't want people showing up at the emergency room. There's not enough room. I mean, there needs to be a better way to take care of these folks, and that's exactly what this project is designed to do. It's pretty cool. I'll have you could hear a whole presentation on that.
I'll explore that.
Yeah. But we have, as an agency, we have 22 staff people, and we have I didn't bring budget materials, but we have a like 1.6 million operating budget. We are primarily funded by the state through state contracts, and we get a number of grants, money from municipalities and other donations. So and we do. I'm trying to think if we forgot anything. We do a lot of substance misuse prevention stuff in the schools. I mean, we're very involved in Winnisquam and even the Tilton School, and so we're very active in that regard.
How does your matter of balance classes differ from the community action matter of balance classes?
I believe those are the same. So we are part of the Public Health Advisory Council is coordinating different regions who provide that program. Some of the programs are at senior centers, most of them are.
So you provide the matter of balance classes, or they provide it?
They provide them. We do not have staff that provide that.
So what you do is just coordinate it?
That's right. So if there's a mini grant or a subcontract, and we can subcontract it out, we'll do it with the senior centers.
As part of Service Link?
As part of the Partnership for Public Health. But our Service Link staff is linked closely to the program.
If you look at the Winnipesaukee Public Health Council, the diagram, this I don't think I have it in front of me. There's an extra copy, but there's one work group that's focused on aging and disability. That work group is the work group that coordinates those balance classes and all of that. So there's like between 33 and 35 different members of the Winnipesaukee Public Health Council, and these work groups meet, and every month they report back. And so work is being done through the council, but it's not just the Partnership for Public Health. It takes a lot of organizations working together to coordinate these activities. So
with the older population in your region, in the older population, is Genesis the only place that you refer to? Is there
Behavioral Health Genesis or the senior?
both?
I would say that for primarily our direct service comprehensive information and referral, goes through the service link of Belknap County. We also manage the service link of Carroll County. So if someone calls in, can be anyone, and they're looking for mental health services, we're going to have a resource page that the staff has got available to them. They're going to look at the community health center, whatever county they're calling in. If it's Carroll County, it's going to be up there. If it's down here, it's Genesis. Yep. If they happen to call from the Plymouth area, the process is, well, we would direct them to the service links over in Grafton County, and in which case Genesis covers part of that region as well.
Is it because Genesis is the only one, or is there nobody else out there?
There are 10 community mental health centers in the state of New Hampshire. It depends on your ability to have resources or not in terms of how far-reaching you can access a behavioral health specialist.
I mean, it's funding too. I mean, the Medicaid funding is there at Genesis, and then they could contract out with someone else, like another provider, but I think it has to flow through Genesis for that Medicaid piece in particular.
So, I'm trying to understand this. So, you guys don't provide services, you point people to the...
Information and referral, largely. The only direct service that we do really comes in the way of, I do school-based immunization clinics, so that's something I subcontract out for with the VNAs. And the other thing is our staff does healthy eating and active living and oral health in the schools. And we do education, but then there's a public health nurse hygienist who comes in and does the direct service. So almost every program we have is about prevention, education, information, and referral.
So,
How do you measure that? How do you, I mean, if you're the vehicle in which to give the public services, I mean, I personally use ServiceLink. I love ServiceLink, but if you're out there and saying, geez, you know, I'm an elderly person and I'm really having trouble figuring out what to do next, and I need some services, and you point me to Genesis, how do you measure that they're getting the right services?
That's an excellent question. So the staff all use a state database. It's called Refer. Very comprehensive. They do a lot of follow-up. And they will ask, did it work for you? They do client questionnaires regularly. And they're very concerned that people end up where they are supposed to end up, particularly if someone doesn't seem to be able to comprehend a lot of what they're saying, in which case they may invite them into the office, ask someone to come with them.
And the elderly can actually comprehend writing out a survey that just say yes, that they were helped?
Yes,
we get a lot back.
There's a lot of, yeah.
We do actually. Because, I mean, most people will return surveys if they're happy with what the help they receive. So we do get a lot of them back. We send a lot of them out, but get a lot of them back. And I'm sure they get some help with, their caregivers might be able to help them fill out the form, but we do.
They get a lot of calls. This is something called No Wrong Door now, and it's everything. ServiceLink gets everything. They're very attuned. If they don't know the answer, they will get it. And I think that Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services also does some random sampling of ServiceLink clients. Did you get your needs met? Did you follow through? And so on. So there is a framework to follow up on that. And I'd just like to tell you about I forgot, we have, I'm going to leave this book with you before Shelley and I leave. This was a project that we worked on with our first responders and hospital staff and medical people. It was around climate change and negative public health outcomes. It's not to say that our agency promotes that climate change is real or not. What we did was look at the data in terms of we're getting wetter and warmer temperatures. The days, Plymouth State did a study, and the days above 40 degrees are increasing. So we sieved down what were the major public health concerns, and one was seniors with extended heat days, where it's above 90 for 2 to 3 days in a row. The other was asthma, and the third was vector-borne illnesses, and the community felt that we should go with Lyme disease prevention. So there's a lot of data in this booklet that I'll leave with you. And I'll also leave you with some cards about tick identification, removal, and disposal.
I have another question. Have you guys looked into providing more services like education on coping skills or stuff that prevents mental health issues? Also, substance abuse resources. Because if you call Genesis or Riverbend, you're not getting in for months.
Right.
And by the time it's come to a phone call, you're in crisis.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
I think you should all entertain having if that's all right with you, having Kelly Gaspa and her staff come and speak with you about the project of substance misuse continuum and prevention education and so on. But it's a really good question. It's the partnership we have with the mental health entity and other providers around. But I think you have really specific questions, and I think you'd really benefit from having Kelly come out, if that sounds like something.
I think I think Lyme disease, is horrible, but I think our biggest problem in the community is mental health and substance abuse. So,
And the reality
I'd like to
is,
see more resources towards that.
this year, there was a little extra additional funding was for youth ages
18 to 25.
18 to 25, and it was around mental health. So that's good, because then Kelly could increase her staff for that particular population most at risk. Yeah, there's very little tick money.
We actually are doing a lot of substance misuse training in the schools. That's where we're hitting them really hard, and Winnisquam is one of the areas, and we know they're putting the state is putting a lot of money out there, a lot of investment, because we know it's a really big problem. So.
So it's Kelly Gasp?
Kelly Gasper, yeah, and she actually is the New Hampshire's substance prevention specialist of the year. She was just, named that, so we're very excited. We have someone who's a celebrity on our staff. But what we really want is we really would like to see some involvement here from the town, that maybe somebody from your town that might want to participate in the Winnipesaukee Public Health Council. We're trying to get more and more folks from the municipalities, and they're all looking. It's right down the street, it's right in your neck of the woods. It's in Tilton, and you can really get, and that's where all of this reporting comes on the Community Health Improvement Plan. I'll leave the big plan for you, a couple copies of the big plan that really outlines all the strategies that we're using for substance misuse and obesity and elderly care, because that's where you're going to hear the work groups report out on the activities that are going on. So you'll always know, because you're the eyes and ears of this community. You know what's going on better than anyone else, and so having your input is going to help us do a better job, overall.
You said our chief participates, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Our chief.
Yeah.
He is, so the way that this framework goes is he's on one of these committees with me. But there is a bigger, the hub entity is what Shelley's, I think.
The big meeting. So there's the work groups, and you can decide, well, gee, maybe I want to be in the substance misuse prevention work group, it's called PICWEL, that work group. Or maybe I just want to be, I want to go to the meetings. Usually you're in a work group and you come to the meetings, and it's the first Thursday of every month is the big meeting, and you can decide from there if you want to get which area of interest is most important, and then you can decide to participate in a smaller work group. But that's where the action is. We need everybody's help. Most communities have similar problems, but some are different, and we like to hear it really from the folks that live there.
What time is your meeting on Thursday?
3 to 4, it's 3 to 4, Thursday, 3 to 4:30, so it's the first Thursday. So the next one will be October 3rd, from 3 to 4:30. And so we'll have probably about an hour as updates, and then the last half hour, we like to have a speaker come in to talk about one of the relevant public health issues. It's really cool.
For third or fifth?
Is it fifth? Oh, okay, it's the 5th then. Yeah, it's the 5th.
Okay, I'll come.
So, yeah.
Ashley's got
That's
volunteer.
great.
Okay, Ashley.
I had a couple questions. There's been a trend of more going towards regionalized healthcare and many programs and that. One of the most vulnerable groups of people in our community that typically would be able to go to doctors, used to be in the centers of towns and things like that. They don't have any transportation. There's no transportation whatsoever for somebody who's got a mental disability or physical disability or elderly. And what happens is a lot of times they'll get referrals to distances that they just can't get to unless they paid a taxi, and they can't afford a taxi. So you know what happens? They don't go. So unless we figure a way to get people to and from the hospitals and to and from these programs, they won't do much good for the people who really, really need it and are getting forgotten about.
Yeah.
Do you have any type of programs that you're working on with that?
So we are participating in, I think it's the Central Region Planning Commission, Lakes Region Planning Commission's transportation. They're moving toward, there was a gal that was presenting before we presented the other night.
Right.
In Hill, and I'm blanking on her name, Loretta, I think her name is. So it's desperate. People cannot, you see people riding bikes, and then the winter comes. There's this Planning Commission initiative that we participate in the meetings, and there's a cancellation, I think, recently of, is it the Galita, whatever the name of the bus was?
Bus route here, yeah.
Did run. So it's a tough situation, and that's another call that ServiceLink will get, and they have pages of referrals. There is an agency out of, I believe, the office is at the Lakes Region Community College. I might be misspeaking here, but that is specifically for seniors and people with disabilities who need a ride. So it is a small, well, a trip over here probably, and I'm not that aware of it, but there's another sort of a partner one in Laconia. And there are programs that allow for transportation reimbursement, for example, if you have Medicaid or meet a certain criteria, but if you don't, it's very difficult.
It
I
is.
know somebody that has actually lost medication, and doctors say, well, there's nothing we can do for you because you can't get to see us. And if you want to see us, and if you're in Tilton, you have to get to Guilford now, because that we're referring you to another doctor. And people with epilepsy and things like that are getting forgotten about. And we all talk about that. Yeah, we can connect them, but today, tomorrow, and next month, these people are in serious need, and
Well,
nobody will address it.
Right, I mean, their best bet would be to call ServiceLink just to know. I mean, the system's fragmented. There are, I mean, I know people that work for visiting nurse agencies that have a driving program. And you know, I mean, they're out there, but you just have to know. And the general population doesn't know. I mean, it's not.
Does too, but it's fragmented.
It's fragmented, and we can only do so much. I mean, we do participate in some of those meetings, but I don't feel as though, I feel like we're losing transportation and not gaining it. And I don't feel like things are getting better, and I don't know the answer. I know you used to have a nice, I don't know if you still do, but a friend of mine, she passed away, you might remember Cindy Goneman, who used to go in for dialysis over to the hospital, and I mean, she was a strong advocate for transportation, and while she was alive, she was able to keep it going, but it just seems like now that is falling apart, and there's no transportation back and forth to the, to the LRGH. So I don't know the answer, but again, the best place to call is ServiceLink to find out if if you can get a ride.
They still maintain out of the trip for elderly and disabled.
Oh, they do. Oh, they have.
LRGH, right.
How many? Once a day, or how?
Every day they do.
Every day,
They do.
one time.
They
Okay, well that's good.
Make the loop up to Lakes Region.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Every day
Okay.
to the senior centers and up to Laconia Senior Center and Lakes Region.
Okay.
They do that still. And there's a
Well, that's
senior
good to
bus.
hear.
There's a CAP senior bus.
It's CAP, it's not LSC. You're right,
Right,
it's CAP.
it's
Yep.
CAP.
Yeah.
They still maintain that.
So it's sort of not completely aligned with our mission, although it is a public health need. So that's where we,
It's huge. There's a
that's where we participate.
Big
Right.
section of people
So-
that are completely forgotten about.
I would,
because of
I
that.
would ask Larissa or the Planning Commission to come and speak with you if you want to get more information and participate in what the work that they're doing. Did you have another question?
No, that's.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No, all set.
Thank you all.
Oh, well, thank you, and Ashley, can you give me your contact information? I'll just put you on the list, and I'll just make sure that,
And I'll get in touch with Kelly Gaspa now. She's in your office.
Yes, she is. 528-2145. I'm going to leave my card and write Kelly's name on the back.
Oh, okay.
And I'll leave a couple of these with my card and...
So if you call this number, I'm actually for some reason, but Kelly is on the back side.
I know, I was telling my husband, I think it's going to be pretty weird. We're probably here
Okay,
8
thank you.
years. I still like, I'm still at the top of my list too. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Wait a minute, Ashley's gonna give you her card. Her contact.
I tell you, I mean, when you watch the news now, you're just like blown away on, these poor people with these disasters
The hurricanes?
and the earthquakes.
Yep. I have a friend that was on St. Croix. Are you ready? You ready, Jim?
Yeah, that's what else is on the agenda.
Both of them?
Thank you.
We got PD and we got, looks like planning, looks like Patricia Garcia's out there. Thanks.
Did you want to do public first, since there seems to be public there?
Well, we do, but we don't have public on here, so maybe quickly, Dennis. I can guess why you're here. Sure, come on up, Dennis.
Hey, Dennis.
We're getting a legal opinion.
What's that?
We discussed you earlier.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
It was good.
It was good. And we decided to get a legal opinion to see if we can deviate from that, which was voted on at town meeting.
Is it really deviating, though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And there are, we all have other options and stuff. We can always do a petition warrant just to, not to change what we do, but, just as an add-on or a caveat to deal
Yes,
with
you'd
that.
have to, if you're going to do a petition warrant article, you would have to change some of the language in the warrant that took place last year.
Right,
Yeah, just be an addition to, basically.
and that would be regular.
Plenty of time.
It comes quick.
I know.
That would be.
I know, but I don't have any commitments anymore. I'm all done college, whole 9 yards, I'm good. I got nothing but time. So I was gonna take you up on your offer, though. I was talking to the wife about it, and I said, she said, why don't you just go down and get you 152 bags and be done with it? So I was like, I'll ask John about that.
I thought that would be great.
Well, that'd be deviating from the program at town meeting.
John, I'm all for it. I'm waiting to hear from the legal.
Yeah. So, all right, so it's out to legal right
Yeah,
now.
Joyce
So,
is gonna contact
Joyce
them
is-
and.
as far as the
and
legal
get back
question,
from
I'm
it.
just curious, like, when you say legal question, what's the question?
Can we deviate from that which was voted on at town meeting, because that's what we'd be doing, town meeting specific. It was very specific, and the selectmen last year decided to bring it to town meeting for that vote.
Right.
And since it was very specific that the option they chose was to use the 96-gallon automated bins for solid waste at
Yep.
curbside, and the 96-gallon automated bins for recyclable at curbside.
Right, which I'm not looking to change.
Anything beyond that would be in purple bags at the highway garage.
And I know one of the
With no
arguments,
exceptions.
one of the arguments a couple of weeks ago, well, not an argument, but a problem that was posed is, what if somebody goes down and sees non-purple bags in the bin and they throw a fit or something? I did dig up about 5 purple bags that I had from the last time when we were using them. So I went down and I dumped my 2 purple bags in this past Wednesday. And the only other bags that were in there were the big black construction bags?
Those come from Riverfront Park, from the town itself.
I understand. I'm not
And
complaining
the
about it, but I'm
sidewalks.
just,
And occasionally the health officer will
Right,
pick
so
up the garbage on
You're
the
saying they
outside.
might blend in.
so it's going to happen whether there's
Yeah,
an
that's
exception
really-
for a resident or an
That's really
exception for
not
the
the
town.
issue. I mean, really
Right.
the issue is, so we make exception for you. That means anyone that comes in after you, we make the exception for, so we're deviating from town meeting. Everybody in town can come in.
Okay, right, so that's, I guess I'll just ask the legal question that you've asked. Are you asking for an exception to the rule per se, for just me? What exactly are you asking the attorney? Is it just a general statement like, can we
Joyce is
deviate
gonna
from this? or-
formulate the
we have the
question,
authority?
that it's,
Yeah.
do we have the authority to make an exception to what was passed at town meeting?
Right, because, like I said, I'm not questioning what we're doing for policy, it's just for those people, as I brought up at town meeting, you know, if you refuse the 96-gallon bins, and we take it down to the DPW, I'm not looking to do anything in excess of the rules as the way it's written. And I know you understand that, I'm just making that clear for the record, that I'm not looking to change any rules. It's just for people, like some of the other elderly people that got up and said, you know what, I can't lug those suckers down to the end of my driveway either. And it's not a lugging thing, like, for me personally, it's just a matter of, you know, the distance and so forth. So that's why I choose to bring my stuff to the DPW, because it's less aggravating for me. Okay. So any anticipation of when they,
No, I can, if we get out early enough tonight, I can write it tonight. Usually it takes about 2 days to hear back once I submit it.
okay,
I'll use the attorney at
Yeah,
New
that's right.
Hampshire Municipal.
So we'll definitely have it for next week.
yeah, okay. I don't know if I'll be able to make it every week, obviously I couldn't make it last week because I
Well, we can let
do things. Yeah,
We'll
I
definitely
appreciate it.
let you know.
we can definitely let you know one way or another.
Now, I've only got like a couple more bags left. Now, in the meantime, can I still go down and get my receptacles back?
Can you get your trash
The
containers back?
recycling, yeah,
Sure.
okay. Because I'll probably do that until we get it squared away, and then we'll work on a...
Joyce can arrange that with Brock.
Yeah, I'll send a note to Rob.
Thank you
Is
for
that-
being patient.
It's not that big a deal. I just don't want to pay for purple bags. Because you know, it's just a thing. Okay, I'm good.
Thank you,
You guys
Dennis.
doing good?
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Tricia, do you have anything for us tonight? She can't. Patricia, do you have anything for us tonight? No? Well, thank you for coming. All right, Joyce, you're on.
Okay. All right, first of all, all right, so I'm going to call Eversource about removing the shoes. Contact Brock to fix the handrails immediately, and if he's unable to do it immediately, I'll find a contractor to come and fix it. And then contact Brock to let him know it's okay to give Dennis back his bins, and also contact New Hampshire Municipal Association for an opinion on waivers to our town meeting ordinance. Okay. I just have a few things to do here quickly. Okay.
It's really the town meeting vote, 'cause
Town meeting.
that's part of the ordinance, right?
Yes. Yes, town meeting vote, yes. I just wanted to get back to you. I had called after last week's meeting and asked Attorney Miller if we could waive having this, signing a waiver agreement, because it was really too much and it was really overkill, and why would we have to do this? Because we always use an attorney from their firm, and it's never been a problem before if we, if there is an attorney from another firm representing a client versus the town, the attorney always makes us aware, and if it is a conflict or not a conflict, and so it isn't a problem, and it was just like 8 pages of legal language. So I got a call back from John Rannigan, and he said, Joyce, just disregard that. He says, she's already done the work. We got the letter today. And I just haven't had a chance to read this yet. So Did you want to take a moment to read it, or?
I've read it. It really doesn't seem like just for me, it doesn't seem like anything for us to do unless they have not complied with our franchise agreement. And I know you said early on that they had complied with everything in the agreement. They even gave us grant money, did they not?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So there really isn't anything for we can do. The service issue is not part of the franchise agreement. So from this point on, when the company takes over, we just have to make sure they continue to abide by the franchise agreement. Maybe we can get more grant money out of them. New company. Anybody else?
Ask for 5 at this time.
Anybody else? No? So, all right, that worked out well.
All right, so I'll have to go get, make 3 copies, 3 originals of the resolution, and send 2 of them to, and then she gave me the address of the person to send it to. Okay. And this is, I didn't know if ever you were bored and wanted something to read. This is the original cable agreement, and it's on top of the file cabinet against the wall, the tall ones. And it says cable television agreement. It's also been scanned, but I don't believe it's in your dashboard, but I'll have to make sure it gets in your dashboard. So, okay. Just a couple other things, and then in my spot. Okay, the PD study. I emailed the board the final geotech report, and I just gave you my copy. I also sent letters to the 5 individuals that had expressed interest at town meeting, March town meeting, to serve on the police station study committee. I also sent a copy of that report to Gary Goodrow, and I asked Gary to send me digital copies of the prints that we've been reviewing. That way, if to blow them up, I just email them to Staples and they can make larger copies to look at. And he also included just a hand sketch of one. Just
That's what you just sent us.
no, what I just sent you was the geotech.
You sent us the sketches for Gary.
Yes, those I sent to you already. So I haven't heard back yet from anybody that had asked to serve on the committee, and but I did do a schedule of dates to meet, and I also sent you an email from Gary saying he would like to participate in working with the committee, but he didn't know if the board wanted to meet with him first, or if you want to have him.
What is his contract? What is our contract with him?
And I had that out. I think he definitely has meeting, he had anticipated committee work, and also at least 1 public hearing.
All right, good. We
So-
should meet with the board probably before.
Okay, do you
But
want?
I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but we need to move along.
Right, so that's
So
why
I
I'm
think
bringing
the
it up.
selectmen, we need to move it along and keep making decisions until we can get a committee formed,
Exactly.
because we're running out of time.
Right.
This took way longer than it should have
Well, we're about 2 weeks off.
to get this. So,
Yeah, 2
all
weeks.
right.
We should have formed this committee back in May. Really.
But what would they be doing?
What would they do?
Looking at the design. We could have had 2 designs based on what the 2 properties are. We could have had that already ready to go depending on which property you picked.
All right, well, let's keep reaching
Well,
out.
Gary's
So let's
concern
go.
is he needs enough time, once you pick your design, because it takes the engineer that's doing the estimate. He has to draw schematics,
Right.
and then the engineer, and that's what he's worried about, and he says he needs 4 to 5 weeks for that.
Right.
So, do you want to meet next week with Gary? Do you want me to get these blown up for you, so you can write on them?
Not for me.
Sounds
I
good.
can see him in the phone.
So next week, next Thursday?
Now that's not the one with the walkout, that's the level land design, right?
Yes.
There's no basement.
The one with the walkout, I need the email in front of me to tell me which.
You can tell by looking to see where
Where the cars are parked.
where the cruisers are parked. If they're parked in the basement, then it's not the one you want. But
Here it is,
that-
Mayor Rogers. Yeah,
we don't want that
we
one.
don't want this one.
This is a level lot, it's not a walkout.
It's all on one floor.
Okay,
So we're not gonna put cruisers in the basements.
okay.
That looks like 3 floors.
From here, the
Deal with it
elevation's
first and
all
second. What is this one?
I don't know.
And this is the one that you came up with, all on one floor.
What I suggest is perhaps maybe that I sit down with the chief and come up with which one you have there with Joyce that you have, and the one that Catherine has, and pick the best one that's gonna fit the PD now into the future, and then work to better that one.
This is a first floor and a second floor.
Right, we
This
only
is
want
not-
one floor.
This is not a basement.
But that one only has two, that one that
So-
you have only has 2 sally ports, and we need 3. So it has to expand a little bit, so
This
rather than waste the selectmen's time next week to go over it, well, why don't we sit with how many we can sit with the chief in the afternoon, look at it with the captain, and go over it, and look to see if that design fits the needs of the PD,
I think that's wonderful.
and then cut down on the time and say, okay, this is where we need to adjust, and this is where it's at, and then we go forward from there.
Excuse me, isn't that what we have the committee for? Why are we doing this?
Because we're
We need
behind
the-
waiting for this.
The
and
committee's
trying to
still
go
gonna
forward.
have the input from the chief and the captain, because they're the ones that are gonna be looking at the PD anyway. We don't have a committee because nobody's answered the emails yet, so we still need to move forward. So, in sake of time, you know, I'll be more than willing, and if you wanna sit, I'll be more than willing to sit with them and go over the specs there.
I just want to make
And
sure
then
that
come
the
to the
committee has
board.
all of the information
Yeah.
and we're not weeding anything
No,
out.
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
we're not doing that at all.
All right,
Just for the sake of time to do that,
We're
and
trying
then
to
sit
move
with the
on.
committee and say, hey, this is what we've got, and then work with the committee on that.
okay. And this, the two-story you don't
You
want
good
at
with
all?
that? Okay, you good with
Can you
that?
reach out to your people, chief, and get it going immediately?
I don't know which is more expensive to do, a 2-story or,
It's the same, he said it was the same 1-story or 2-story. Gary said
I'm looking at a
it's
builder
almost the
back
same.
there. I don't know.
If you go single story, are you designing to put a second story up if growth ever happens, or are you gonna have to keep going?
No,
wider?
we definitely should design it so that it will hold a second story, or at least part of it.
So don't we have an officer that lives in Tilton now that would be willing to sign up on the committee?
I believe we do have an officer that lives in Tilton, and he's probably present in this room.
At some point.
That would be willing to sign up to be a part of the committee? To design the police?
Travis,
in the building.
right, from what he said, pretty much a lot.
I don't see an elevator on this.
It's 1 floor.
Okay, so,
This one.
I think that's a great plan, Pat, thank you for suggesting it.
All right, and
Um,
then
but-
will they have something put together for you when the selectmen meets next Thursday?
Who?
Pat and the PD?
Chief
I'm
and
sure.
I and the captain.
Okay.
So, with the geotechnical report, has everybody read it?
Yeah, I have.
It seems obvious the best lot to build on is the one we own. Everybody see that? I have a question. I didn't notice when I looked at this, it shows an easement across the front of the
Of the
corner,
other one.
of the corner lot.
What is that?
I don't
Is that the
know,
old road? Before they straightened it
but
out?
it definitely says easement.
There's a sewer easement.
It's all
Yeah,
bad, right?
that's the sewer easement in the front, and then in the back
That's
is
public,
the-
so, okay, so it's a sewer easement.
Right.
Right, that's not quite so shocking, but anyway,
There's a sewer easement on the corner lot. There's no sewer there yet, so
well, they got an
run it right
easement.
down the road if they choose, because it stops between the two lots.
Well, I'm wondering if it was some other easement, because typically you wouldn't It doesn't sound right.
It's a funny looking easement.
Isn't it funny looking easement?
Sounds great.
So does everybody agree that we should build on the one that we own?
Not necessarily,
Well,
because it,
12 to 13 feet is a whole lot better than 4 feet to 12 feet.
Well, this says both sites would be suitable for the support of shallow foundations.
right.
Okay, but what's a shallow foundation? A slab on grade, which I wouldn't recommend for a building this size.
I don't know. Sounds like not a basement, is what I'm
Well,
getting.
on the lot that we own, you could put in an 8-foot foundation and you could have your, in part of it, and you could put your furnace and waterworks and stuff in there. And save, you're using up your living space, and the rest of it could be 4 foot with slab on grade. I wouldn't recommend it for the first lot though, because you start hitting ledge, that gets ching expensive. You're gonna have to crawl.
Well, it says that the potential, the available data indicate that the potential for encountering bedrock is less at lot 1. It doesn't say that it's not there. It just says it's less.
And also their pits went deeper, I think.
At lot 115, refusals were encountered at depths ranging from 4 feet to 12 feet. At lot 16, refusals were encountered a bit deeper at depths ranging from about 12 feet to 13 feet. So you could definitely put in an 8-foot foundation on part of it without a problem. But if you tried putting in an 8-foot foundation or even a 4-foot foundation on the first one, you could run into some pretty expensive problems.
You're way over my head on that one.
Right.
I'm not an engineer,
Are we
nor
gonna
am
let the
I.
committee decide this, or are we deciding
No, the
this?
selectmen were going to decide this.
I think for exposure and everything else, the corner lot is the perfect lot.
It's not the perfect lot to build on. Signs are a lot cheaper than dealing with ledge.
I don't know.
It's the most inexpensive lot since we already own it. We don't have to buy it.
Right. You don't have to buy it, you don't have to wait on the park to extend sewer.
I
Nope.
don't
Just have
know
to
how
tap
to
into it.
interpret what they're saying,
I
is
don't-
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I
but-
would like Gary to interpret this for me,
Because I'm,
because
You're
I
going to get
don't,
him in here next week.
I don't know how he's interpreting it. If Gary says, you know what, I'm interpreting it exactly the way Catherine's interpreting it, then I'm okay with that.
I'm just reading it. There's no interpretation.
Well, you have a little bit of background with,
Refusals were encountered at depths ranging from 4 feet to 12 feet.
Is that on all 3 boards?
No,
No, 4 to 12, the
4 to
holes
12
were
feet.
4 to 12, so they had a 4, a 12, and one other.
Yeah.
The other ones were 12, 13, and one other, because they did 3 on each, and
Right.
since they're not
So,
saying any different.
12, 13.
So
you
our
know,
lot
at least in the
is,
front of 1/6, their first boring, which is in the front, was at least 12 feet deep.
so
But can we see if you can get Gary
yeah, and then,
Gary in here as soon as possible? We got to move on this. It's getting gory.
so Gary, next Thursday, and I will email, you'll get all of these. Do you know what these are talking about? Well, Pat will know.
If
Yeah,
we
and-
can't get anybody to respond, then the
One
selectmen are
total.
going to have to move on
I'll
this.
forward it to you right now.
What? Look, and I sent it to you? Okay,
So it's a plan. Get Gary Gooder in here next week.
okay, that's done.
Would you please give him a heads up
Got
of
that
why we
down?
want him in here,
Okay,
especially?
yep.
All right.
Okay, and then just, I had mentioned to Catherine, Rick Silverberg was supposed to be here tonight, and I was supposed to have prepared, or he and I were supposed to have prepared a, I don't want to call them bylaws, but, because we've got so many agreements with the selectmen, have with WRTA, DOT, for 2 phases, the sewer project for 2 phases.
Yep.
And The Conservation Commission has one for certain items, and there's, with the rail agreements, right, the rail agreements, because they are saying what the town's responsible for, and we're putting that responsibility on to the trail.
The Conservation Commission should not have any signed agreements with the WRTA, except for
easement, there's
as
an
it
easement.
is proposed for the Salmon Run property and the possibility of them
Right.
building across it at some point.
No, but it does say in there that they're responsible for maintaining the gates, and they have taken care of locks and keys that need to be replaced, and the trail that goes through the property.
Except that currently, technically, that is on property governed by the Board of Selectmen because we haven't transferred it to the conservation yet.
I believe there's an easement that's on the other portion.
On Salmon Run, that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
there's one on the other one, but
Because they-
this was
for a
where the
bridge.
trail.
That's right. That's what I was referring to. The other one is under the governance of the Board of Selectmen because we've not transferred it for some reason. Even though I've asked several times why we have.
Okay, there's two parcels there. and
There's two
yours-
parcels.
Right.
Salmon Run and
The former Ernie's.
the former Bernie's.
Right, but the former Ernie's, there is an easement between the town of Tilton and the Trails Association. The former Ernie's has structures on it that the Trails Association said that they would agree to maintain.
Mhm.
And that agreement can only be made with the Board of Selectmen.
Right, not the Conservation Commission. Right?
Even though they signed off on it.
I don't think that we're gonna shrug that. I'm just saying technically.
So it's and then we also have we have the agreement with WRTA that they will provide $10,000. So it's going to be pulling this all together into one document in one place, so everybody knows who's responsible for what. The way it
Well,
needs
back up. You're proposing we have one agreement with WRTA to cover all of this?
Well, it will reference.
You're gonna make an outline.
Yes, I'm going to reference all the things that they're responsible for.
So you're just making an outline. This is an agreement you expect us to sign.
Well, what do you want?
Well,
Well, it's
just
the
saying
procedures, it's
because
like at what point how do you go about withdrawing money from the,
that's all described right here. Is it not?
no, because what they
Well,
have.
we haven't even established a committee yet.
Right, well, the first thing is to
The
establish,
composition of the advisory committee will be determined by the Board of Selectmen. And you're saying they already have a committee.
they don't know, I didn't say that.
Somebody did.
I didn't say that.
Go ahead.
I said what their practice has been is that the members of the WRTA, they go out and they do at least semi-annual maintenance. If something has fallen on the trail or something gets washed out, as soon as it comes to our attention, they go out and they repair it. They either repair it themselves or they hire someone to repair it within their own operating funds, and they fix it as soon as they can. Now, if something major happens that they need, or the selectmen say, oh, this is an emergency, this is really bad, someone's going to get hurt, it's got to be fixed right away, then you have this fund that the board can draw on. And so it's outlining what the process is how the committee comes to the selectmen and says, whatever. It's like, we've reviewed, and that there's this one guardrail that's over by such and such station that somebody stove up, and we're going to need an engineer and wetlands permits to get in there and fix it. That would be a good example of accessing that money right away. But if it's something like, oh, there's a little bit of washout on the trail, we call the Trails Association, and they go fix it. They keep a stockpile of ledge pack, and they go out and fix it themselves. If there's a tree down, they go out and cut it down themselves. If it's a tree that's down in the railway, we just call the railway and we say, oh, there's a tree on your property. Oh, sorry, we're not allowed to go in there, so you guys are responsible for taking
You're
it
not
down.
going to rewrite the agreements, you're just
No.
going to put all the agreements together
Yes.
in one
Yes.
succinct little...
Yes, so that if somebody wants to,
Text for it.
yeah, just to look and see, well, what is it that the DOT requires? Well, DOT requires that if any work's going to be done on the trail that impacts one of their crossings, that somebody's got to call them.
So this isn't an agreement that we're going to be signing.
If you don't want it to be signed, it doesn't have to be signed.
There's going to be an index
This is
that
just
puts all
an
the
outline.
agreements together.
These
Right.
agreements are
'Cause
signed by the
there's so
state
many.
of New Hampshire,
We're just organizing.
so you're organizing,
Yes.
making an outline.
Because how else will anybody know what DOT requires of the town? How will they know what DOT requires of the town if it doesn't say on a piece of paper, you've got to go to that document? Somebody's got to go to the document.
You just read the agreements.
But not everything in that agreement applies to it. You could have an index that says, go see section such and such and such and such in
Okay.
one of the 12 agreements.
It'll be
in there.
helpful to others, as
Okay,
long
so
as
as
you
long
don't
as you
intend
don't
for us
want
to
to
sign
be
it.
signed.
Because if you
Super
read
helpful to
these,
me.
if you read these, you
Me too,
can't
I'm
amend
trying
it.
to find them all.
And then,
And there's also the sewer, the Winnipesaukee River
interceptor.
Basin project. Who to call
coordinate
there?
it all together with the team.
Who's responsible for making sure the bollards are locked?
Town of Tilton is ultimately responsible for all the
We
maintenance.
know that, Catherine, that's why we're trying to make it easy.
So I guess I know it too well.
Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about that, and I haven't heard back from DOT on Class 5 road on Winnipesaukee or Bittern Lane, and I sent you an email response on what the state's doing with Winter Street, so we could plan to do our things next week. Okay, now, let me just get organized here. Couple good things. I had occasion to contact the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration, our municipal account advisor, because I had some questions that were raised on some warrant articles in prior years, and she was very helpful. Okay, the first one, the easy one, is that when the budget committee needed to fill vacancies, and we kind of ran into a roadblock that we couldn't fill the vacancies because we didn't have a quorum to fill vacancies. And when I went back and researched through the minutes when the budget committee was originally created, it was like back in the early 70s. Back during those days, the budget law, municipal budget law, was only 13 sections. In 1993, the legislature adopted what they called the Municipal Budget Act, which added sections 14 to like 33, which was good because it was a little more, it gave more guidance and direction. So when I discovered this, actually it was NHMA that had discovered it. It was on my list of things to do, and so I asked Stephanie, I said, how do we correct this to make sure, because we have been acting, we've been functioning since at least 1993 as a Municipal Budget Act town. And so she said, I'll get back to you, and she sent it to me, and she said the legislature thought about that, because other towns are in the same situation we were. So when they passed that, and this was in the supplement, it says that effective in August 1993, any municipality which has validly adopted RSA 32 prior to the effective date of this act shall be deemed to have adopted RSA 32:14 through 23 concerning budget committees as inserted by this act. And so she said, I'm going to wave my magic wand, and now New Hampshire DRA officially says, you're at New Hampshire. Don't worry about it. We are a Municipal Budget Act town. So that's good. So the second thing I wanted clarification on was the issue of, on capital reserve funds. When the town creates capital reserve funds and they designate the selectmen as agents for those funds, at that point, it's up to the selectmen that they can withdraw that money, they can spend that money at any time that they want. So the question said, but wait a minute, back in 2010, when we did Pine Street Bridge, we had to authorize $285,300 to reconstruct Pine Street Bridge, and also issue $210,300 in bonds and notes, and further to authorize the withdrawal of $75,000 from the Pine Street Capital Reserve Fund. So it needed authorization there, so why does it, how can you do that now, just spend money? And she confirmed what I had told the individual, that this warrant article was a bonding warrant article. And when you write bonding warrant articles, you have to designate what the gross is, what you're borrowing, and how you're paying for the difference. So this was just language saying, and we're going to withdraw that $75,000 to make up the difference. It had to be written that way. It has nothing to do as to whether or not the selectmen could or couldn't do that. So that was that argument. So we're clear there. And are we getting into the other area now? What was the other one? There were so many. There were 4.
You're on a roll, Joyce.
I'm on a roll.
On a roll.
Oh, and the other one that came up was, in preparing our budget for 2018, RSA 3213, contracts and expenditures prior to town meeting, section 1 and 2, basically says that for the first 3 months of the next fiscal year, you're operating just on what your operating expenses were from last year, from the 2017. So that when we put together our budget in 2018, anything new that you're doing, hiring people, doing new capital projects, doing new bonding, everything, it's like the clock kind of just stops until you get the new authorization in March to carry out your goals and objectives and your plan for 2018.
So can you do some sort of article in anticipation of voter approval at town meeting? If we're looking for paving bids, do I have to wait, or because it's coming out of the account, we don't have to worry?
No, you would just put a stipulation in there that it's contingent upon
Okay.
funding from town meeting.
Unless you
Well-
encumber it with this year's funds.
Right.
Or if you're paying for it out of capital reserve.
If you're paying for it out of the capital reserve,
Yeah.
or if it's something that's in a contract that you've signed,
Right.
that's been encumbered.
So,
Yeah.
when we hired the attorney prosecutor in July, and we made a new position and a new wages and everything else, and then we set specific wage goals for January of 2016 and July of 2017 and 2018. You're saying that we illegally did that?
No, because that's a contract that you signed in a fiscal year, that you had the legal authorization in that budget for a prosecutor. You had the authorization for the number of people that you have.
If we hire in 2017 X amount of people
Yes.
for town hall and X amount of people for the PD or the Public Works Department, in 2017, we, in the past, have added their wages in the budget for 2018,
Okay.
correct?
Correct. So you're looking at two things. Unless there's a contractual obligation, of which a collective bargaining agreement is contractual, but in order to get the authorization to have that contractual 3-year collective bargaining agreement, you had to put the town meeting on notice. I'll get to that. That it's going to be this amount in this year, this amount this year, this amount this year. Now, you're talking about something that you're doing separately outside of a collective bargaining agreement. Say you hire the new town administrator, okay, and you engage in a legally binding contract that you're going to pay him X, whatever. That's legally binding.
If you hire a person and we've been through this before in prior years as a selectman, if you hire a person and the Board of Selectmen signs a PAR to hire that person.
That PAR is not a legally binding contract. You have a signed agreement. Signed by both that
Because that is a
we differ.
It is a binding contract because we went through this prior to this in other circumstances.
Okay.
And we got documentation from a lawyer that said, not New Hampshire Municipal Association, it happened to have been Dan Crean, that said it is a binding contract. It says, yes, it is a binding contract when they sign a PAR. And it had to do with
Are you,
public
If
works.
town meeting, say in 2018, if town meeting says no means no, and the way they do that is they zero out a line item, because we're a bottom line budget, but if they put a zero in a purpose, then the selectmen have to make some decisions about, well, geez, what are we gonna do to live within our bottom line budget? We can't spend money on this one thing because that got zeroed out.
We as selectmen
And Stephanie
have the
said that
right,
on the phone.
we as selectmen have the right, we've done it with police officers. We've increased police officers. We have hired a police officer, and we said, yes, we're gonna go to 7 police officers. So we hired that 7th police officer. We found the money in the budget.
In the
We
existing
hired-
budget.
In the existing budget. We hired that police
Yes.
officer in that year. And then in the following year, in the budget, we put that wages and benefits and everything else in the following year. There's no different than what we're doing right now. None. Absolutely none. We made a motion to expand our dispatch. We made a motion to expand our dispatch by 1 full-time and 1 part-time.
Right, that.
We made
yep,
that motion.
Yep,
It was accepted, it was
Yep.
voted on, it was passed, and we found the money existing in 2017.
yes.
Now, we're saying to the finance director to add that money into the budget for wages and benefits in the 2018 budget.
For a full-time and a part-time.
Correct.
Yes, right.
What's the difference of adding?
Because your motion said to hire now 1 full-time and 1 part-time dispatcher, which is, you've got a purpose of appropriation, you've got dispatchers. I mean,
Because if we started January 1st.
yeah, the issue is then adding more January 1st, where January 1st, we're in a new budget year, we can't be adding new things as of January 1. It's no different than with, take the town clerk tax collector's wage. You had to wait until March, but it was,
We hire him next week.
Right. The only thing here is we listened to all the data. We sorted out the data in Corporal and the chief and everybody else that spoke on it. We accepted the data and we said, yes, we feel very strongly that we want to go 24/7 in dispatch. So if it only means that instead of starting January 1, we start December 1, so be it.
oh, yes, that's what I'm saying. For something like that, that is because you're tremendously increasing your number of staff. You're making decisions for future financial obligations that is a policy decision that should be brought before the town.
But we do that every time we hire a new hire.
And we also have Northfield that's going to come on board with us, that needs to know whether or not they're coming on board with us. They need to sign their contract with Belknap, and if we're going 24/7, they need to know that.
Well, I think the townspeople need to know that.
So, there's 2 issues that have come up. I'm still hanging on your opening about RSA and not funding between January and March anything new that arises. Is that clear to everybody what that means? It doesn't mean that all the new hires this year are not gonna get paid between
No,
January
and it
and
doesn't
March.
mean
It
if you,
simply means that we can't add anything
right, well,
to the 2018 budget and expend that monies until it's been voted on at 2018's
new.
meeting. That's what I
Right.
said, I think.
but you can, I think, I mean, we had discussed this at length, to go with and looked at the numbers, that there is sufficient funding in the budget now that you could go with a full-time dispatcher, add a full-time dispatcher, because we're getting so close to the end of the year, and a part-time dispatcher, because number one, he's got money within his budget. He's already had a purpose of appropriation for appropriating money in a line item that includes the Group 1 people.
So this is what we've already talked about approving
So
now.
the question.
And there's sufficient money
There's
to be able to
sufficient
do
enough
that
money for
within
that.
officers' wages.
That's not
Question.
24/7.
Correct.
What you're
60
posing
hours.
to the Board of Selectmen is to reconsider the vote to go 24 hours January 1st. That's what you're putting before us.
Right. Well, that's what I was
Um,
trying to explain.
Oh, our chairman of the budget, your chairman of the budget committee, aren't you, would like to make a comment or ask a question? Jane?
I know that the snow on the mountain, but the steel traffic here, so I heard this being discussed. I remembered from my basic budgeting, municipal budgeting course, that this issue came up. And I'd like to read to you from the fourth chapter of the basic budgeting book. It talks about exceptions of-
Can you move to the mic, please?
Yeah, it talks about exceptions to the rule, and this is no spending without an appropriation. And exceptions to the rule, number one, is transfer. The governing body may make transfers of amounts from an unexpended balance in some other appropriation to a purpose that is already in the budget. It's RSA 32:10. And it says to see chapter 26 of this book, which is on transfers. I went further and started digging around, and this is chapter 32, section 32:13, and it's gone under contract expenditures prior to meeting, all right? And number 2 of that says this subdivision shall not be construed to affect the authority of the local governing body in towns with a March annual meeting and a January through December fiscal year to make expenditures between January 1st and the date a budget is adopted, which are reasonable in light of a prior year's appropriations and expenditures for the same purpose during the same period of time. Now, we already have dispatch, so it would be an expression for the same thing, just enlarging that.
Right.
I went further and I called the New Hampshire Municipal Association and I talked with Margaret Burns, and Margaret sent me a letter this afternoon saying that this in no way is illegal, that the select board is specifically authorized by statute to spend money in the time period from January 1st to March 1st from the meeting per RSA 32:13, Roman numeral 2, which is what I just read, okay? And so I have a copy of this letter. She said that in this particular case, she thinks that it's a safety issue because I explained to her that right now the patrolmen, if they're a bike patrol and they're out on the street patrolling with the bike, they have to come back after their period of time and make it 2 entries into the system, and that's time consuming, and there could be another issue that came up in the meantime, and they'd have to go take care of that. So it's really a safety issue too, and she agreed with me that it could certainly be seen that way. So she said that legally you're perfectly within your right to do what you're suggesting doing. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you,
Okay?
Jane.
Yeah.
I'll say it's also a safety issue if they're pulling people over and then going back to the station. That's another officer that's off the road doing what they're there to do. So that is a safety issue, being as we're not going to be fully staffed with patrolmen if they're doing paperwork.
That's why we came up with a proposal, a recommendation to the board to go ahead and implement the the full-time dispatcher and the part-time dispatcher now,
We've already done that, though.
but you've did it in one motion. You did everything in one motion.
Well, if I could point out too, on the second handout I gave you, that is a draft budget, and if you look under the PD on the first page, you'll see that there's a $211,000 increase, and what that reflects is 16/7 through April 1st, at which time it goes to 24/7. The difference to go 24/7 for the entire year is only $20,000 more, a little more than $20,000 more. It's in the $230,000 range for an increase for that time period. So,
Say that again?
so in other words, we're giving up $30,000 worth of revenue when our expense is roughly $20,000. Now, the caveat to that is we don't know what medical plans the dispatchers would be on. So, I mean, that could vary, but that's the difference. So this model that you're looking at, that has 16/7 dispatch through town meeting, anticipating a 24/7 dispatch starting April 1st. So the increase to the police budget there is $211,196. By extending that to 24/7 on January 1st,
On April 1st.
no, by backing that up to January 1st, the total is about $232,000 increase. So it's a little more than $20,000.
So where did we get the 180 that we were given?
Well, what you don't see here is you don't see the revenue side of it. And also the 185, there was no medical in that. We have medical projected in here.
I don't understand why all these figures just become so new and foreign every time this proposal is being faced. I don't get it.
Well, because it's more refined.
I never
and
saw the
and it's
first
in the form of the
I don't have this.
annual budget.
Well, I mean, I have one here.
The salaries are the same. The taxes, retirement are the same.
No, this one's different. This is hourly rate 22, and hourly rate 18. This is different.
That was the
The-
original.
99,413 is the
Very first
original.
one we got.
Then we
And-
went to one that was 150, and then I was hearing 180,000. Now I'm hearing 232,000. This
Because
is
they
gonna cost
didn't,
us?
the 232,000
I
is
know
not
it's not.
considered with the revenue.
Right.
Because we have Samberton and Northfield.
Revenue and
that
the
would-
medical
would-
are the two differences there.
So
That's
it's
right.
not really given an honest look at what it actually
Could
would
offset.
cost.
Well,
The
and
offset would cost the town of Tilton.
and when we brought it forward, we made note, and on your sheets from that meeting with the 185, we said medical was not included on that. And
So you came with the chief in a proposal and gave us the proposal, and we looked at it, we thought about it, and we okayed the proposal, and we said we want it to be 24/7 based on the numbers and everything that you gave us. And now you're saying, geez, I think you should reconsider this because my numbers aren't right?
no, in fact, I'm saying that this supports, depending upon what the medical turns out to be, this supports the fact that you'd be giving up $30,000 of revenue for the cost of $20,000 of expense. It's just the opposite.
What does that mean?
So then
And
why
another-
are you here then? Why are you two here? Are you suggesting that we keep the 24/7 dispatch? Are you suggesting that we only go with 16? I'm confused here.
Okay, what I would be recommending.
Are you not agreeing on what you recommend?
No, we do, but he's got the
Somewhat,
numbers to
yeah.
support it. I would recommend that you go forward with the one full-time and the one part-time now. Go through the budget process, which I'm sure won't have any problem being approved because our town's always been very, very supportive of our police department, and say that this is the proposal, go through the budget process, and this is why we need to go to full 24/7 coverage.
What I don't
But,
get,
This
and get the
proposal-
authorization and get the money to do that.
You said one full-time, one part-time.
Yes.
This proposal is based on one full-time, two part-time.
I don't know what you're looking at.
First,
Yeah.
that's 24, 16, or...
I don't get why. This has happened a lot lately in the Board of Selectmen. I do not get why we sit here and listen to a proposal, whether it's trash or anything else. We sit here and listen to a proposal ad nauseum, and we finally get to a decision, whether it takes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make that decision. We make a decision, and then the very next week, we're trying to undo the decision that we made last week. This is what's happening, and it's wrong. On all accounts, it's wrong. We made a decision as a board.
Right. And I don't think that you had all of the information to be making the decision.
You haven't told me anything different.
Well, one thing, Peter, go ahead.
Is there a guarantee the towns are going to hop in with us? Because reading the paper recently, I thought we had an article that just blew that totally out of the water.
There's no agreement. I mean, there's no
guarantee.
guarantee. There's talks, no guarantee.
What's
Okay.
Northfield has to pay
Northfield
some-
does because they're Merrimack County and they
I know,
don't
but
pay
I'm
the
thinking about
tax.
Tilton taxpayers.
Sanford doesn't have to.
There's no, right now, from what I understand, Belknap County does not intend to charge beyond what we're already paying county
In
taxes.
2018.
In 2018, they don't intend to charge us an additional fee. That I understand.
It could be another time.
And I just want to say, I
know it's
mean, I
gonna
know you just said your thing about the taxpayers. I am too. Safety is huge, and I think we all sat here and we've talked about this at many meetings. Nate came in, gave us numbers on, you know, how much time it takes for them to go back to the office and input this data.
Yes, and
So-
no one would disagree with that. No one would disagree with that. It's just that to make a financial commitment like this going in the future, do a phase-in. Do part of it now and start the rest in a town meeting.
I don't
that's
understand
not
why
what
you're
we
so
talked
adamant
about.
about this.
That's not what we talked about when we did this. Had I had heard that then, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I feel like it's.
No, I bow to the decisions of the Board of Selectmen, and I feel it's my responsibility to just make you aware of the
You
statutes.
were here at that meeting.
The
I
first
wasn't-
one, but then we sent them back because they needed to correct the information they provided us. Were you here at the second one?
When we voted
When
on
we
this.
made the decision?
yes.
When we made the
Yes.
decision, you were here.
August 31st I was when you made the decision,
Right.
yes.
So, I mean, that information should have come forward when we were making that decision.
I have to say for me, just my own opinion, my vote was based on Belknap County charging us beyond our taxes. That had a lot of bearing on my vote. Knowing that they don't intend to do that for the 2018. I'm now hanging on the thread, or on the edge of the fence. John, you had something you wanted to add?
I want to ask a question. If we were just to go to the 16, over Northfield.
They wouldn't sign with us.
Northfield's looking for 24, so.
Right, they won't go.
Can't give
No,
them-
they would
Let me
go.
just finish, please. Question is if we go to 16. If we go to 16, Northfield's looking for 24, because they have to, absolutely. If we go to 16, Northfield will have no option with us. They'll have to go somewhere else or do it, so we lose them on the whole deal coming up. So Northfield's out. So in 2019, if that's when it kicks in, that we have to do the 24,
If it does.
we will not have the income coming from Northfield
Or other
or
communities.
in other communities. And perhaps when we go to the 24, then we can pick up Samberton too.
Well, and what I'm trying to explain too, in the terms of those first 3 months of the year, is that the difference of 16.7 versus 24.7, our expense is a little more than $20,000, but we're giving up $30,000 in revenue for the year. So in other words, it doesn't make sense. And also to your point, Pat, I should note that the $211,000 that's shown here, that's not just dispatch. That's the total. That's the difference of the total 2018 budget projected this way versus 2017. So that's not dispatch only. That includes, all the other collective bargaining increases, medical, all sorts of things. So just to be clear.
So it's not just dispatch.
No, it's not. But keep in mind that this model is 16.7 through the end of March, 24/7 through the end of the year. The difference being, as I said, a little more than $20,000.
The chief would like to say something or ask a question.
From that meeting, I just kind of put
Talk
together...
into the mic.
I'm sorry. I put together the highlights, I guess I'll call it, from the meeting that Nate and I brought to the board. And just to...
I can pass them down.
Thank you.
So for us, the main reason, and especially for me, but I'll say for us too, was the officer safety issues, both roadside and in the building. Some of the officers are here tonight that maybe weren't here that time, but they can kind of describe in their words some of the safety issues that they see by waiting for airtime, competing with other towns across the lake as far as Alton, who might be on the air when we need help and we're having to wait for them to get off the radio, to an officer, a smaller officer in the booking room at 2 in the morning booking a prisoner, and the prisoner loses control and tackles the officer to the ground. There's no one else in the building with them. Those kind of safety issues. And then obviously prisoners in there could injure themselves in a cell as well. Typically in a PD that has 24/7 dispatch, the dispatch watches that camera all the time when there's a prisoner in there, and they actually log it. We had that in Plymouth, where they write down that they view the camera while the prisoner's in the cell. Gives the officer the ability to call the bail commissioner, maybe get some paperwork together for the bail commissioner. Somebody's watching that prisoner in the middle of the night, and they're not alone. So
Since we've never had 24/7 dispatch, what have we done all these years?
we're just rolling the dice, hoping nothing happens, essentially. And then the other thing was that we brought up was the re-entry of the calls. So last year we did 6,100 calls for service above our own at Belknap, and the officers have to, probably I'll say 85% of those have to be re-entered into our system. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes per call to re-enter them. New Buffington ran the numbers today. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $66,000 if you average a police officer's rate and the time it takes to enter those calls. And then that the lobby remains closed at 4 o'clock. One of the other things that we didn't highlight that night was Tilton PD is a regional EOC, which means during a storm in the middle of the winter, when multiple communities lose power, we're the EOC, regional EOC for Tilton, Selectmen, and Northfield. There was several times last winter that Belknap went down and we had to call in a dispatcher, but our building becomes even more important during those storms because we are the EOC. And then lastly, I think John just highlighted it as the revenue options. And that's it. I just wanted to recap that meeting.
Thank you.
What are the grants, though? We never talked about grants.
So only dispatch centers that dispatch for more than one agency are allowed for Homeland Security grants. So if you're considered by definition a regional dispatch center, you're eligible for grant money that you wouldn't otherwise be eligible for. For radio equipment, repeaters,
Technology.
base stations, technology, software.
Which we will probably need.
Yeah, I mean, I sit on that committee in Concord, and we had to deny some, I thought they were well-written grants, and the reason we had to deny them is because they only dispatch for themselves and no one else.
And Homeland Security says they have to dispatch for more than one agency to be eligible.
We also talked about productivity at that meeting, that the productivity would obviously greatly increase if they had more time to do the job that we've tasked them. We complain about parking and speeding and this and that and expect them to be able to deal with all that, but they don't have the tools they need to do that. They have to go back to the PD to do all this.
That was anything you wanted to add? Because I brought him down here, because it's nice to hear from their point of view, what they see.
I just brought down a couple things.
Oh, yeah.
The
Catherine said that.
safety, and so this was one storm, one night near Long Mountain.
From last year?
It was a couple of years ago, but we had a bunch of storms last year, right? So, and I don't even look at, all I'm looking at in this to show you guys is like, we're on Belknap at this particular moment in time. And if you go to page 3, starting at 1 o'clock, obviously that's what time the storm started, right? So we start off with a vehicle off the road at 1 o'clock. So there's our first one. At 2 o'clock, we have another vehicle off the road. We have a tree across the road, there's 3. We have another accident, there's 4. We have wires down,
This
there's
information
5.
when it was first
We have
presented.
minor fender bender is 6. We have state police calling for someone hit, that's 7. We have trees down, 8. It goes all the way up, as you guys can check it. But it goes all the way up in that 10 or 11 hour period to 24 calls. 24 calls for wires down, car accident, or vehicle off the road. That's just for Tilton, and we're on Belknap. So multiply that by 12 to 15 counties. You know, the Belknap County goes to 15 agencies. So while we're trying to get airtime to call all this stuff in, so is Alton, so is Belmont, so is, you know, Gilmington, everybody. So that's kind of one snowstorm last year. Some of them were that lead. So that's that for the officer safety portion. So I have 2 focus suits where we got the focus suits with people here in town. One was like right around Christmas time. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear it a little bit better.
Checking. One Grimsby Line, 17 Tango 194 in School Street. Run towards Mechanic Street. On your advising 716 has one running.
So just to pause it real quick. So we get the foot pursuit on the railroad tracks out back here, right? So he's calling foot pursuit. Belknap doesn't really hear him. I come over the radio while I'm coming code because I hear him. I tell them he's in a foot pursuit, and then we continue from there.
Subject is running west on Main Street. WNWV 519, Belknap County Valley Unison Station. Signal 1000 is in effect for Tilton PD. Advise, Signal 1000 is in effect for Tilton PD.
So what that means is nobody's allowed to use the radio except for Tilton. So if we're in a foot pursuit, everybody else can be calling in right now. Luckily enough that night, it wasn't busy. But on a busy night, you're trying to get radio time. You're walking on somebody and stepping over the radio. So now it's just Tilton who's allowed to use the radio in the whole county. So now we have, so about a minute and a half, 2 minutes where we're running, we're chasing, Everybody's driving here, going here and there. So that was one, and I have one more from this Christmas. You know, it starts off at Kohl's.
Now you want to put it right in front of me.
So we're running. I have a cruiser. So he drives his car. But
He's coming in the car. Go out, full pursuit. Yep, where are ya? Let us know where you are. At the park 101. Confirm you have one in custody? One detained.
So we get him in custody. So again, it was quiet that night, but we're running from all the way across Kohl's, all the way across Lowe's, calling for another unit, calling for this, calling for that. So we signed off at Kohl's, so she should have known where we were, right? But she had to ask us, where are you guys? Tell us where you're
I
running.
do.
So they get so busy up there that it does create an issue come safety time, running down the tracks, the railroad tracks, running down this way, all that stuff. So, you know, the benefit, and I think there was a little disconnect, and Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, with his numbers, what he was saying is, it sounds like it's more cost effective to go 24/7 in January because it's a $20,000 hit as opposed to not going if those guys don't come on board, we're going to lose X amount of dollars, 30, 35,000, whatever it is. So it's actually going to cost 55,000 to go 24/7 as opposed to 20,000, essentially.
No, we can't do it in January.
He's saying it makes more
I'm
sense.
recommending that you wait until town meeting. All I'm presenting to the board is to do the full 24/7. Go do the 16 now, and then do the 24/7 at town meeting.
If we wait till town meeting, we do not have Northfield on board because they have to sign the contract in early January to decide whether Belknap or us.
Can
They have to do
Have
that.
we asked them if they can?
They're not going to wait. They have to. They won't have coverage.
No, I'm just with Belknap. Would Belknap let them get out?
No, they won't.
And we know that for a fact.
Chief? Right.
Oh, so they is meaning his selectmen.
So,
The town, correct.
Okay, I thought you meant Belknap.
So,
All right.
do we have the funds to add 24/7, let's say December 1st?
That's what I was just asking.
And that's what I'll have to determine. We have some funds. It might mean maybe pushing out the first 1.5, a week or two out into November, and then, starting the other two December, beginning of December, maybe the second week of December, but
There's 2 full-time and 1 part-time that we're adding. We already have 1 full-time.
that's correct.
No, I thought you were adding 3 full-time.
No, we're adding 2 full-time
No.
and 1 part-time.
Now, there's 3 full-time and 1 part-time being added.
So you'll have a total
Three
of 4.
additional.
3
you would
additional
have a
full-time.
total when we're done of 3 full-time.
4.
4 full-time and 1 part-time. That,
Of course, give listeners, we have now 16 would be, 24 would be for.
you're talking about in what, you mean full-time, part-time?
I'd like to know, I don't know if this is what you're asking, the total cost of what it would be to have a 16-hour dispatch. And then I'd like to know what the total cost is for a 24-hour dispatch. Is that
So
what you want?
this, the 16-hour dispatch is in front of you. So,
Well,
and-
I have another one.
well, where,
And it's different.
well,
And we have money in the budget this year to do budget transfers
So
to
the
pay for
total
that.
cost, is this based on 1 year? 95,646.
95,646
Is that for
is-
12 months?
that's for 12 months with the worst-case medical plan.
All right.
And then it's broken out cost per month, and then you can see the November, December cost. And then you can see where I estimated the savings coming from through officers' wages because you'll see Officer 1 and 2 there and the difference in their rates and the number of weeks that the position was vacant, the salary differential through the end of the year, the medical that we didn't have to pay during the vacancy, and then the medical differential through the end of the year, and then the savings in New Hampshire retirement because of the salary differential.
So it's going to change the minute we go into July 1st of next year.
Well,
Because
no, but-
officer number 2.
but
No,
is-
this
to-
takes care of your budget
This is
transfers
this
to
year.
do it this year.
Yeah, but I,
That's purely
yeah.
paying for those
So the total
positions through
cost
the end of
for
this year.
16-hour dispatch is 95,646.
Correct,
Right.
Without any fluff, nothing.
right,
That's it.
right.
Worst case scenario.
Worst case
medical.
scenario, medical, that's right. With what we know now with medical.
The rates.
What's 24 hours? Same thing, no anything. Just what's the
$229?
cost?
So, well, originally they were anticipating, and I don't know that it's been changed, but originally they were anticipating a more qualified dispatcher for one of the full-time positions, and then 3 qualified, 2 qualified full-time and 1 qualified part-time. So there were differences in those rates.
Best
And
case scenario?
worst case scenario,
That would be it.
well,
You're looking at the 18 and the 22 wage?
Yes.
hour? Okay.
yeah.
What would that be for 24 hours?
So that was the 185,000, not including the medical.
And so what would
It would be
the-
like 229,000.
What's with the medical?
for
Because the
full-time.
first one
Well-
was with medical.
Well, for the 2018 estimate, I used $40,000 as the estimate for medical, 1 family and 2 single plans. They could all turn out to be single. There could be a buyout. There could be any number
3
of things.
families?
It could be 3. It could be as high as $60,000, or it could be as low as.
They all have family plans.
Then that's $60,000. So that's 245,000 with family plans, less the $30,000 revenue.
So 240.
What are you using as a per hour figure?
Which is what was originally put in, which was $22 for the experienced dispatcher, $18 an hour for the 2 qualified full-time dispatchers, and $17 an hour for the qualified part-time dispatcher.
My understanding, Chief,
You weren't too far off with your number.
Yeah, 229, that was with the figures that you gave me here.
Can I just ask one
Worst case
question here?
scenario.
We're trying to make a decision, and we're having to extrapolate and pry numbers out of you guys. This is crazy. This is the craziest thing. I thought we had it all last week, and now, I mean, this number, I'm scratching it out. No, if we do this, we do that. Why don't I have a piece of paper in front of me that says, this will cost this presently, this will cut that at 16, and that will cut that at 24? This is it, not prepared. This is a waste of time. I think we should just table it, come back
Chief.
next week.
That's
We have
fine.
proper information.
I can have that information for you next week. The wild card is the medical. If we put in the worst case
And
medical.
put the high and the low in there on the sheet.
can I ask a question?
I'm
now?
sorry.
Hold on. Let's one at a time. John was finishing. Are you all set?
He cut me off.
I did.
You did?
I
Yes, he did.
apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm getting
Chief, is it my
random.
understanding
Yeah.
that it's your belief that we
we do not need the $22 figure, that we could come in at the $20 figure.
Well, the reports
So if everybody's qualified as opposed to
It would be the
experienced.
$19 figure, and the more qualified is 19, and then the part-time
And
would be 18.
That's what equals out to 229, because I used these figures to figure that out, because these were qualified, full-time, qualified, part-time.
You can figure it out based on that.
I can use the 19
I
and
did, it's
18s.
229. $682. And then if you subtract 30,000 from Northfield, we'll just say the 12,500 that we're saving with the deal with the Samerton for prosecutor. And what was the other thing I put in there? Oh, this 25,000 if we're not replacing Appleby.
Well, no,
But we had-
the 25,000 is simply this, through the end of the year, where we're paying for people this year to be able to
But
implement it this
for
year.
next year, if we
But
don't
it still would be
fire
lower
him.
into
It's
next
still,
year.
you have the salary differential for the entire year, that's correct.
Yeah, so that adds up,
Yeah.
that equals out to be 162,000.
But the salary differential is already in the budgeted, the other budgeted figures, so in that 211 that you're looking at,
My opinion is
What,
that I think we
211?
need to make this happen.
from the proposed budget, the other
These?
the other document you have there.
Oh, I didn't look at that. I
Okay.
added that. I added these for the 24/7 that we would need, subtracted the offsetting costs, and that's what I got, 162.
And and which medical? Put in the,
These, so we're
20,000
adding
for each?
3, so I added 3 full-time qualified and 1 part-time. And I got like 229, and then I subtracted 30,000 from
Right.
Northfield, the 25,000 from savings from the officer, or the differential, and something else. What was the other thing?
the
Yes, thank you.
the officer differential, though, I mean, you can look at it that way, but that savings would have been there regardless for the following year.
Yeah, it would have.
I think you should take a consensus and see if the board wants to make this happen this year for 24/7, and just, and then have them come back with the figures next week, period. Or if they don't want to have it happen this year, then you're just making the finance director spin wheels for nothing.
Well, I appreciate all that, but I kind of in the situation that John is. I have had so far 3 different proposals put in front of me, and none of the numbers are comparable. They're not the same. My problem is 24 hours, it's 245,000 worst case scenario. We stand to get, perhaps, it's still not guaranteed, but it looks like it's probably a good bet, is Northfield the 35,000. I'm sorry, that's $210,000 that we're asking the taxpayers to jump into.
Well, and it's actually less than that because the wages are going to be a little less.
Well,
Top line wage is going to be less. So the reason
to a
why,
certain
the
extent,
reason
but
why,
we're still, I
Well,
still
also-
don't think we've gotten it down to 175,000 with all of that, do we?
no, but the reason why you have different figures is because it's a work in progress. I mean,
Exactly.
there are,
But my
there's-
point is, I'm not willing to throw $175,000 at the taxpayers without a significant, cash flow to reduce that, which is what I thought I had when I voted for this. I don't have that. We're not saving any money for Belknap County to offset this. We're not going to get any Belknap County towns to sign on to 24/7 when they're in the same position we are. They're paying for the service through their county taxes. They're not going to pay twice. We're going to be paying twice. So, we can call a consensus, but I don't have a vote until I see some really hard figures. And I don't even know if that would help, because I'm still back to the only offsetting income I really have for this is the 35,000 that may be coming from Northfield.
30,000.
Oh, see, I've got a paper here that says Northfield 35,000.
That's what they're currently paying.
All right, so
But,
it'd be
it was-
paying less.
So it'd be even less.
It's less, yeah, that's what they agreed to.
But we're getting 12,000 from Zamberton for prosecuting.
But that could end 3 months from now. That's not dispatching. That's a different revenue
No,
flow.
but, no, you're right, you're looking going forward at $250,000.
Yeah, pretty much, and I'm sorry, it's kind of making me,
And there is a need, there is definitely a need.
well, I can see a definite need for 16-hour dispatch. I can see that need. For 24 hours, it would be a grand thing to have, but can the taxpayers of the town of Tilton afford a $200,000 hit?
Well, so if I could
With
turn your,
everything else
if I
that's
could turn
coming
your
down.
attention to the draft budget, if you look at the bottom line there, even though culture and recreation and outside agencies are all estimated, we have no figures from any of those people. You're looking at an overall 2.7% increase in the budget from year to year. And that's primarily due to the fact that while there's a big increase in the police department, due to the dispatch expansion, we don't have the business park debt anymore. And so that is shown as paid off, and we're not budgeting any payments for that. So you see there's a $137,000 reduction, and so that's why the bottom line there shows a $136,000 increase, or 2.7%. Now keep in mind that is not including the additional 20,000 or so for January through April, but for dispatch. But you have some offset there through the lack of debt.
Well,
Police station.
yeah, but at some point in time, some of that offset in death, because we don't have to pay for that anymore, we should be able to give that relief to the taxpayers, not usurp it for another project. Just me. I got a hard time with,
I
And
think
at
that's,
some point in time, when we make a decision, the decision should be made and not come back the following week or the week after and say, oh, you know what? I think we should change that decision.
I appreciate this
Disgusting.
because it's changed. I appreciate the fact that you've come forward to let us know that the information that was based on at least my decision is no longer there, which is Belknap County's fee. It's no longer part of it. So I do appreciate you coming back tonight. I think I would have been upset.
I don't think that's 100% true, but
I would have been upset if we had continued on with this and it wasn't brought to our attention, but that's just me again. Board, how do you want to proceed with this? Do you want more financial information? Do you want to take a consensus whether you want to go forward with the 24-hour? We have a lot of decisions here. Go with the vote that was voted, a week or two ago? Or change the vote, go with 16 hours, hold the vote, and get more information and make a decision next week? What do you want to do?
go with the vote and move it to December.
I'd like to table it, the decision of last week, the implicating of it, until next week when we get real accurate numbers, highs and lows for what we presently have, the 16 and the 24, and get those, in advance of the meeting next week in writing.
Ashley?
I think if one person wants to table it, then we should.
Peter?
Get more information.
All right, so more information. Board, what do you want to see from the information, John?
Realistic numbers.
High and low in all of the,
in those three scenarios?
in the scenarios, and also, that covers everything, high and low with the insurance part of it, high and low with wages, and then the income that's from Northfield, what would we be getting?
What is on our agenda for next week? Gary Goodrow. All right, that needs to come first, so we should discuss this right after that, I think. Anything else beyond what John has asked for information? Does anyone need?
Know what we're doing?
I think so. So do you want it detailed, or do you want a summary? Do you want it
I think this is
spreadsheet.
broken out
do you
as
think this is
detailed as
pretty
you can
good?
get?
Do you think
Yep.
this is pretty
Yeah.
good?
All right, I'll give it to
Usually
you.
give us a
Yep.
pretty clear format.
And we can have it before the meeting.
Yeah, no, I should be able to have it for you by Monday.
Yeah, I think they're good scenarios.
The present scenario with 8-hour dispatch, then 16-hour dispatch, and 24-hour dispatch,
And
with
then-
high and low.
With high and low, and starting when for each.
Are you looking for the annual cost for those scenarios?
Yes.
In other words, we're factoring out when
But it's
exactly we
actually
would
going to
start it.
cost for a full year for this project, because that's what the impact is.
And I would use worst case for insurance, because we don't
We
know
have-
what
He asked
the
her
well, we
for,
have
gonna be.
John
high
asked
and
her for
low.
both.
Yeah.
High and low.
High and low.
High and low.
Right?
Can do.
Thank you for all the work you've already done.
We've got
Thank
one more
everybody
thing.
for coming in.
Yeah, there is, regarding the highway equipment note.
Next. Yep.
So Joyce and I, in the process of talking to DRA about RSAs and capital reserve funds, so on and so forth, and in going through the Budget Act, it was brought to our attention a question about the financing for the highway equipment. So in researching that, we determined that what we originally thought would work and what we did, I've got one right here. What we did was appropriate, but after discussing with our auditor and with DRA auditor, we believe that there was a better course of action to acquire the equipment. So unfortunately, that's after the execution of the note. So the plan that we're putting forth is to use existing monies that we have available to us that's perfectly fine to use for the repayment of this note. And we did check with DRA on this, and they said it's perfectly fine to use the SB 38 money that was a grant to the town, which can be used for highway equipment, along with the balance of the capital reserve fund after we pay for the Ford 550 truck and all the accessories on it, and then expending roughly about, I think it's $22,000 from the highway equipment purchase line. So that is on a manifest somewhere floating around for that repayment. And then that means that we have no interest charge. It's all purchased through the end of this year. The one caveat is that I'm going to have to look and see where we can find money because we will use all the remaining available funds out of that capital reserve for highway equipment. I'll have to find where we can find money for the mower for this year that was approved.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
And let me say that I take responsibility for that error.
We all fall on the knife together. We're
So-
the ones that told you, and I think I expressly made a part of my motion to make the financial arrangements which would best serve the taxpayers, and that's just what you did. So, all right. Comments. Pat, you had something to say?
I'm, for one, am very angry that we have to use the SB 38 money. I'm not for it at all. At all, because somebody made a mistake, I'm not for it, and I don't think that we have the onus on that, I'm sorry. But The SB 38 money we hadn't decided on what we were going to use that for. As a matter of fact, we had a long discussion on that, on what to use it for. Now we can't use it for that because we're using it on equipment that we bought thinking that we were going to finance that equipment, and now we can't. Now we're going to use it and not have our sidewalks done. So I'd like this page, I'd like another page because I signed it incorrectly, and I don't want my name on this, and I want it in a matter of record that I don't want to sign this because I really am adamantly opposed to using SB 38 monies for that.
How much money is in the reserve fund for highways and sidewalks and bridges?
I believe it's 260,000.
Can't use it for sidewalks.
They have.
All right, so unfortunately, for whatever reason, we have a source of funding that we have to change. This is one way of doing it. Is there an alternative? Okay,
It's not get it,
we already got it.
We already got it.
and we've already agreed to pay. Or was that?
We
the-
signed the loan. Yes, we signed it. We did all the financials. The equipment was purchased.
I can tell you how much is in it. Just
The flail mower can wait till March. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We're not going to take extra money out for that because we haven't got that, correct?
That's correct.
that's correct.
That's what I was thinking.
No, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So with this year's addition to the roads, sidewalks and bridges capital reserve, we will have $265,000.
That's for 2017's money. What do we normally put in there?
35.
No,
6.
74,000.
We do another 35.
All right.
Well-
We did sidewalk and then we did roads.
Yeah, we used to do 65, and then we added 9,000 a year for the sidewalks, so there's a total of 74 that's going in, and it's at 100. That was the warrant article,
We did
74,000.
that only one time because we had an estimate. But the year before that, we wanted to put in 35 each. We did it because we had the 9,000, we had specific, we had 35,000 and then an extra 9,000 to do. We had an estimate, that's why it was an odd number.
Okay,
We had a specific estimate.
okay, all right. But in any case, the 74,000 going in will bring it up to right around 265,000 with the interest.
That's with next year, that's 2000.
No, that's with 2017's
That's
addition,
2017.
which we have not yet made.
We have
Another 35, so
17. Into the.
Not to the roads, streets, and bridges.
Equipment we did.
We did, yes, because we're anticipating paying for the Ford 550.
John?
The purpose of the SB 38 was to use that money for things that we, to get ahead on projects and stuff like that. That was my thought. And weren't we planning on replacing some of this equipment anyway?
Well, the excavator is qualify as, we're now able to do projects that we weren't doing before. Right? Isn't that what he said?
Yes.
So, I don't think that the SB 38 money should be spent on the equipment, possibly for the excavator since that is a new thing. But we already planned to replace that truck. And that was in the works. And we shouldn't be using any of the SB 38 money because that's not what it's intended for.
It is a permissible use of it.
Even though it might, see, I'm saying because we already planned to do it, it's nothing, not a new thing. It's something we planned for replacement.
How much was the
Okay,
excavator?
but we may not have a choice. Right now, we're being told that the way we financed it, we have to change.
What was the excavator?
We don't have the money in the budget in other places. We do have it in those monies where it is permissible. And since we we really don't have a choice. Does it really matter if we take it out of the reserve fund, if we take it out of those monies, if we take it out of the budget? We have to refinance this purchase. We can't send the equipment back because we've already purchased it and used it.
Well,
But I don't hear an alternative out on the table.
we could go back to DRA and see if there's some other means, but it did not sound that way. Joyce and I both spoke to them regarding this.
Peter, how do you feel
You
about?
can't go back to the bank and put that clause in?
It's
It's not a secured loan.
there may be one other option to refinance it, but it would be at a higher rate.
So it costs us more money.
It would cost us more money, probably about.
I'm all about saving money.
I got a rate of 4.29%. I think,
Well, they don't get taxed.
but that wasn't the point. The issue is that it should have come to the town meeting as a warrant article to be approved, because it's a multi-year expenditure.
The way that it was financed.
Right.
Right. If we had chosen to pay for it off, it doesn't have to go to town meeting.
No,
Right. Okay. Peter, comments,
Because you're
questions?
agents of the capital reserve funds.
Ashley, comments, questions? How do you feel about Tim's proposal just to pay it all off? Use the monies from the state.
That's what the best option is.
Peter?
I agree.
7-9.
Let the record show.
Save monies.
Can you please make a new sign-out sheet for,
Yep, I'll go down and do that right now.
And then what we learned about revolving funds.
So,
Yeah.
you need a motion from us to,
I would say so, and the difference is the way we handle the police cruisers is perfectly acceptable because it's a different type of fund. It's a revolving fund, and that's permitted out of the revolving fund, the way we're handling it. So,
I'm trying to think about how to word this motion. Motion to
I-
pay it off as per the finance officer's suggestion?
we'll be back here next week on doing that.
I don't think so. Is that enough of a motion? Do I need to be more clarifying?
I think so, because what
I
was,
would-
It
I would
really
say-
needs to be specific.
Then give me,
and to use
Be more
the,
specific.
okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to pay, I make a motion to pay off the unsecured loan by using the
SB 38,
SB 38 monies?
yeah, as well as the remaining monies from the capital reserve.
The remaining
for highway
monies for the
equipment.
capital reserve for highway equipment?
And it's all in that, the amounts are all in that,
In your letter.
You say SB 38 money, you should put in highway block.
Highway block grant?
Because that's what the funds are. Because highway block grant money
it's actually
for certain things.
wherever the manifest is, it's all broken out.
Oh, it's in the manifest. I was looking at your letter.
So capital reserve funds can't be used to make loan payments,
Not really.
not regular capital reserve funds. Let me see where it's broken out.
Oh. This page?
Yep.
See how it's,
Okay, the grant, SB Highway Block Grant Money, SB 38, $54,428.79.
We got the pay off in his report.
The Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Money is $13,638.64. Highway Equipment Purchase Expense out of the
operating budget.
Operating budget for $22,287.57. I had to mention the finance interest expense of $107.72.
And that'll be paid for by the short-term borrowing.
Okay. Does everybody understand the motion on the table? Okay. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
We have a second, I'm sorry.
Ashley?
Ashley? Did we get some ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Let the record show, no.
No.
All right, the motion carries.
I'll go down and redo that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank God for Diet Coke. All right, next. Moving right along. Anything else from administration?
No, I feel enough, so I'll take some more lumps if you wanna.
No.
I got big shoulders.
No. All right, selectmen's reports. Peter?
Yep, I had a situation occur last Friday. My property, along with 6 others, have deeded beach rights and deeded rights to a right-of-way. Apparently, the original owner sold his rights to the road and beach in 2002. There was no title search done. Last Friday, we had a squatter was going to camp out on our beach area until we called Tilton PD and straightened it out. My question for the assessor, I've got a legal opinion from '95 when I bought the property, basically stating that the Albert LaRanger at the time retained rights, never gave them up. So why has he never been taxed? And same with the current owner. And then one of the neighbors went through with the 7 properties, took the description out of the deeded right-of-way. I have yet had time to go to Belknap County to get a copy of the approved site plan, which also refers to the right-of-ways. So my question, I guess, for Avatar is, why does that lot have no number? And I think it has a number, but when you go to the book, it's vacant. I have to pay additional taxes because I have rights, yet the owner is tax-free.
Well, that doesn't make sense, does it? Can you bring that to the attention of the assessor?
Huh? Yeah, he sold in 2002.
Was he the owner?
Albert?
No, Merrill.
No, those are the originals. Or, let's see. Those are the original purchasers. 69, back when the development went in, and then through the early 70s.
Okay, this is all the deed research. This is all the deed research.
Did you get a copy of the letter I had from Mattson
just get
McKean?
done.
Yep,
Okay.
this is extra.
That's
Can I
excellent.
keep the
You
extra
can
one?
keep the extra.
It's marks.
Okay.
I got a couple extras.
I want you to make sure they got the deed thing.
And then, let's see, I got a question for the chief. Traffic control, Winter Street. Leaving today, there was like dump truck, excavator, dump truck.
Yeah.
So a long stretch, one flagger in the middle. I don't think that is appropriate traffic control.
I was gonna bring up the same thing.
And I was going to bring up the same thing, because you cannot drive a school bus on the sidewalk on Winter Street in order to get by that excavator and dump truck. And we had to today.
And why don't we have someone there?
And it was no flagger at the time. A guy just went,
Was it the water
Do we then
company
play
or their
hardball and
vendor?
say you need a uniformed officer? Or?
I think we
Was
should.
that the water district?
Yes.
Yes.
And why isn't the water district required to have dispatchers in that case? Winter Street is certainly, dispatchers, listen to me. Why aren't they expected to have a detail?
It was Kenny Partridge.
But it's not a state
It's not,
job.
it was
This was
Kenny
the
Partridge.
water district.
But even if it's a state job,
It was Kenny Partridge that was doing the work. The state last week was doing the work with drainage, and they had certified flaggers, and they weren't blocking the road.
yeah, they
You could
no,
go
they were
around
good.
it.
It's been the other company and
They had
water
one lane
district.
traffic, but they had flaggers that were stopped, though, two flaggers. This one, they weren't. I literally had one set of tires on the sidewalk and I had to go get my kids.
Yeah, because they have people walking, like, as they're telling me to come, some random people walking through, and then he had to, like, stop me all of a sudden because the equipment, like, went in the road, so there was a big lack of communication. I don't know why, but, and I've heard that from a lot of people.
The other thing is, I'm not sure if the signs are down every night, because a lot of mornings I see flagger sign up fairly early, so.
No, they don't come down at all.
This morning, there was a detour sign up.
There was one this afternoon, and I didn't, there was no need or not, and I went by, so they're mis-signing the road.
Right at the corner of
The
Deer and Winter,
Yeah.
there was a detour sign, so you couldn't go down Deer, but he went like this, so I could go down Deer Street to get Winter Street down to Cedar to pick up the
We need to have a conversation with all the entities involved. It's DOT's job. There must be a project manager.
Well, today was the first day with the detour, but it was confusing because there was no do not come down this road. It just said detour, so I took it as you could if you wanted. I don't know. It was confusing.
Yes, no? Pale.
using SB 38 money.
All right.
Anything else, Peter?
I think that's it.
Ashley?
No.
Sorry.
I have two quick
Go ahead,
ones.
Beck.
I have one, when is Halloween night going to be celebrated, and I'm getting calls, and the other is the senior center electric. Is it
It's Halloween?
No, that's one downtown.
That's when they do the...
the
Did they-
downtown is the 24th? 27th.
Is there going to be a downtown event for Halloween?
Are we gonna
I
get,
have some.
are we gonna get, prizes? Downtown,
Over the costumes.
yep. Do like we did last time?
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of them. We spent and got gift
And a
certificate kind of things.
Okay. Oh,
And then
What is
Halloween in town is when? Is it the 30th or 31st?
All Hallows Eve?
Tuesday night?
Yeah, the way
So-
it plays out, Friday
In Tanger, okay.
When is Tanger? That's Friday, right?
No, yes, the 27th.
They usually match with.
So have you done the Halloween before, Ashley?
Yeah.
A judge? Were you a judge?
No,
No?
just like,
I think she should be.
I think you should
Oh,
be
yeah.
a judge too.
why? I gotta bring Savannah around and
She can help you judge.
You shouldn't bring Savannah.
Well, that's right, you had them parade down
Yep.
Main Street, that's right.
All right, so then now we have the electric. $600. Make a motion.
Make a motion that we expend
can we
$600,
discuss it first?
Yeah, we will once the motion's seconded, so wait.
that we spend the $600 to upgrade the electric at the senior center.
Second. Discussion on the motion on the table. Peter?
What's the town policy on expenditures? Over 500 needs 3 bids?
Yes.
So at this point, you either ask them not to exceed $499, or we have to go out to bid if we're gonna follow our...
You know, I hear you when you say that. We had an electrician up there, and then we had to call an electrician thousands of dollars later to fix the issue with the subcontractor on the electrician. Do you remember that with the big wire the exposed wire going into the electrical box. Then we tried to get JP Carter, we tried to get Absolute Electric, and they were all too busy to go up there. Now we have an electrician that's been faithful to us, that is changing out lights, that know the building, that know the 3 boxes that connect to each other. I would really prefer that we stick with the one that knows the work and knows the building and knows where these wires go.
Well, we could just consider all that
We'll consider
when we
it.
get the bids, can't we? Because that, I mean, I take that all.
So we have such, Public Works through the years, they have come to us before to sole source, so they don't have to go out for bids for a similar reason. Like, we sole source the street sweeping because that company was the only one that had a certain design to it. It didn't have the underdump, it had another design that they could dump into the loader or something like that. And we've sole source other things like, Palmer Spring, I think there's the really aren't that
And
many
they do the
places.
same thing here, we have the same electrician.
So
come
if
here.
you're asking us to sole source
Yes,
the
I am.
electrician for the senior
I'll
center,
motion it if you want me to.
but I'm just,
My thoughts that it's not, that we're doing a separate project. This is something that was discovered in the process of doing something else and discovered by an electrician that was doing it, and it's more of an add-on because he couldn't complete what he previously was doing. So if you have a guy that's a contractor in there doing a portion of the work, and then all of a sudden, in the process of that, discover something that else that has to be fixed, and already you've done that and worked through it and discovered it and know what it is, I think for being $100 over the bid thing, that we should just continue with it. But if it was, like you said, for the bids, if he was installing something brand new and hadn't already been there working on this project, yes, I think that would be a bid. And that would be,
So what I hear from that is if I'm the contractor, if I'm smart enough, I go in with my low bid, then I come back, oh, and by the way, I've just found this, this, and this, here's my new total.
as a contractor, I don't think you'd have lights blowing, discover lights blowing up. It's not just, like we're gonna put some fancier trim on or something.
Why have policies? Either up the number on it, change the policy, or does the policy say that the only exemption is electricians, or?
Well, I'm all for
Yeah, because,
this.
I would be willing to up the number too, because it seems kind of, he was in the middle of the project when he discovered this, plus the light burst when the Wednesday night group turned the light on. So, it is a serious issue right now. However,
I'm okay with using him like you want to, but then I think we should change the policy.
Correct.
And also the fact that he was already working on the project. Yeah, that.
a lot of money went into that second electrician, I'll tell you.
any more discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
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 Madam
Opposed,
Chair,
abstentions, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to raise the minimum bid amount requiring 3 bids from $500 to $2,500.
Wow.
Second.
All
You
right,
can amend it to up or down, I just threw a number out.
all right. Discussion on the motion on the table to increase, well, everybody heard it, right?
Well, I just had a couple questions on history. Do we know how long ago it was made for 500?
I was a
Oh, I've got-
selectman, and I'm actually the one that brought it forward.
Yeah. We have it in our book downstairs.
I'm looking at inflation.
Probably about 15 years ago, I bet. It was 9 years ago, it was in
Yeah,
place.
it's got to be at least 15
I'm
years.
the selectman that came up with the idea.
At least 15
Because,
years.
Yeah.
and I can tell you a little bit of the history. At the time, they were talking about purchase orders. Everybody had to get a purchase order. And then it was like, well, what amount are you going to get a purchase order? Blah, blah, blah. I said, look, let's just have a thing out there. It had to have been like 2003 or 4. This is a long time ago. So I just said, look, let's just make it any bid over $500. And it wasn't much discussion, and off it went. And I was like, well, that was easy. So, any other questions, John?
If you don't like my number,
That
throw
was the
one.
25, well, I'd like to make a motion to amend that to $1,000.
Do I hear 17?
Do I hear a second? Anybody want a second my 1,000? Sold? Nope, not sold. 1,000 amendment? Well,
What kind of inflation is that where'd you get those numbers?
100% increase.
Yeah, but in 14 years,
Let's see how it goes, you know? Because it's always been just a little bit over that we've...
I could go with 1,000 or 15, I think 25 is,
okay.
I don't know though.
We can change it again later.
Amended to 2,000.
Nobody seconded your...
Nobody seconded.
We almost had a second.
We almost did. Now we have a motion on the table to amend it to 2?
Yep. That's what I said. Make a motion to amend it to 2.
I've said 15.
So we will second it?
I like 15.
I like 15.
Nobody seconded it.
Hey, Ashley, your turn.
Interesting. Your turn?
15.
Second!
I'll second it. I'll third it. No, yeah, it's...
I can go with
Try that
15.
out.
Try it. All right, any more discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor of the motion on the table, please signify by saying aye.
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 I heard unanimous motion carries.
Gail, we unanimously voted on something tonight.
A money thing, too.
You know one thing I'd like to do sometime is to get our selectmen's policy book that we have downstairs and just take a night when there's nothing going on and just go through and either rescind or change.
Some night when there's nothing going on?
Some night when there's nothing.
Seriously?
Going on. Yeah.
That's
Some
Sunday
of them are
night.
out there. I have a copy.
Yeah.
I haven't even kept up with it. I shake my head at
came
some
across-
of them.
well,
Peter,
the
what
one-
about your board?
How there, did you know that we have a policy that no employee can take work home unless they have a signed letter from the selectmen?
I was there, yes, I do know.
Why would you want?
Yep. And, you know,
Really?
absolutely now, and that was for a very specific circumstance. They didn't have time to agree with.
Oh, there's a letter in the file from the selectman to Heather saying, yes, Heather, it's okay for you to take your welfare files with you when you go work or something.
No, that's not right. Those should stand, those are town records. John, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple things. I saw there's been some conversation on the bridge behind Evans and connecting that through to Evans and to the Hobby Lobby and that whole parking lot. And I've brought this up many times. When Evans was originally built and the diner was going in, that whole development, there was a requirement that there would be 2 means of egress to that whole complex. It was turned down by the state of New Hampshire to have it come out onto 140 because it was either too close to the tracks or it would be in the wetlands and too close to the intersection in the island, so it would make it difficult to turn. So part of the original site plan was that they were to maintain and keep that bridge for emergency access only with keys to the fire department that Pike had built, which is like a culvert with a cement thing over it.
No, it's an
And that-
asphalt dryer drum.
Even worse. So eventually what happened is the asphalt driver drum washed out, caved in, and trees grew and it got abandoned. And now there is questions as to whether or not the town and who's going to pay to connect those 2 lots. Well, I think that we need to get back to what the original site plan was, and that there should be 2 means of egress, and they're responsible for maintaining that, and they should be putting it back in. But that was one of the things on there, and
Can I ask you a question on that? How does site plan tell a developer they must work with another private developer next door to go onto their property as a means of,
I'm,
Can't,
that's, okay.
that's right, but whoever, regardless of all this, we have a safety issue that was brought up with the original site plan, and that was the method of resolving the safety issue, was that bridge and that culvert, and that must be put back in regardless of all this other stuff, and should be a violation.
Who owns it? Because it's...
We need to look at the site plan and figure that out.
that should be in the tax card files, and don't we normally put those decisions in the...
Yeah.
So hopefully that's in there and we won't have to go into the dungeon, but there might be some language that
Yeah.
John's referring to.
And then the developer on the other side and the other one can start
They'll have to work
negotiating in between each other, and
Made it clear to them that
either way.
Their lawyers are gonna,
But that's their problem.
It was always
it's
a...
their problem, but
it
we have
was-
information like you just gave us that we could supply them.
That's been brought up year after year after year, and it always was a
2012.
liability issue.
Yeah.
It was always a liability issue that Shaw's didn't absorb.
Well, see, now
Or the parent
we'll exchange holdings.
Right, and they're
And
not
now
gonna
that there's a
want-
new owner, I guess Franklin Savings Bank wants to open that up again. So
So-
all I did was give him information that I had on file, and now John has given some information, and I told Ron in the email, I said, here, I said, we'll take a look at this. see if there's any-"
Next thing was, I think there's a bunch of bulbs out on the island. We could check that.
Yeah,
And and see if, in Tim's spare time, if he can find out why we had it, like Peter brought up, a 233% increase in the electricity last month on the island.
well, we had a spell, John, where the lights weren't going off and we were
I'm
going
not sure,
haywire.
maybe it was, one of these estimated amounts and then they finally caught up, or is there something going on? Is there somebody that moved in on the gazebo with an
Estimated.
electric heater?
Don't they usually note estimated though? Because a lot of
I
times
didn't
it's in
see
the winter.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's why I'm
estimated.
thinking it wasn't estimated.
But that's a,
Good call.
just,
Yep.
and what was Peter brought up? Another thing I was wondering how we're doing with, it came up about the property at Salmon Run and the former Ernie site and combining it. And I think we were waiting for the stabilization of see if we could get rid of the test bores so that they could then be joined together. So
I think
Yeah,
the real-
I'm still waiting for,
a couple of results.
yes, we got a letter not too long ago.
But I thought what we were waiting for was the project to end and the state and everybody to sign off. Those wellheads can sit there, whether it's still owned by the town of Tilton.
Correct.
But it's whether it's under our management or Conservation Commission's management, shouldn't have anything to do with those wellheads.
And also, it wouldn't have anything to do with, the other part was the Ernie's grant. We wanted to make sure that
That's-
the
Was
EPA
settled.
funding was all set. Our petroleum funding is all done. And now they've turned it over to hazardous waste.
So can we transfer it?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Let's see if we can do it
Would
maybe
you
before the
tell-
first of the year.
Sure.
Yeah,
Send a
not
message
next
out to
week,
the
but
conservation.
first of the year, maybe we can
Oh, you
get that
met-
done.
You met this week,
We
didn't
met
you?
this week. Nothing really super, let's see. And just anything on the Northfield Island. I know you have a lot to do.
No,
So-
I meant to talk with Wayne the second week of September. I was over there for a meeting, and I just,
And the one other thing was, last year, I think one of the selectmen was so gracious and accomplished so much by talking to the state while they were just so happened to be going through and cutting brush along the wall. Maybe that person could go and use whatever magic they used to convince them, hey, cut the brush along the river for us again, please. And
was that you?
was it you?
Yeah.
Of course.
I'll tell you
I thought
that.
it was you.
I tried.
He
I
did
tried
cut-
and
he
tried.
went out
He
and
laughed
cut
at
some
me.
all on his own.
And I cut it.
He went out there and hung and, oh yeah, we know, they were out there with the, mower.
The
flail
mower?
You did.
Yeah, so I had the connection the other day. So they-
Yeah, and one of the things that, we might want to take a look at is the trees. Like, what you see when you go along the road, you see like brush coming up. However, if you are on the river and you look there are actually tree trunks coming out through the rocks in that wall that are 8 to 10 inches big, that are offsetting and displacing the rocks that actually hold the road together. The other thing that's going on with that is some of the pilings for that guardrail have washed out and broken off completely. So we've got some, yeah.
Wow.
I know DOT tried to give us that whole section of road.
Yes, they did. They did a good job in trying to give us that, didn't they?
But that's all I have.
Didn't they?
Just more things for your list. I apologize.
We might want to try to talk with Tilton School on the same subject of the sidewalk.
You
there,
can't see
try
the
to-
speed limit sign.
Right, you can't see the speed limit sign, and it's, before winter, you're not going to be able to get the multi one up along the sidewalk because of the overgrowth.
They're usually very good, Joyce.
Yep,
Would
they
you
are.
just contact them?
They really do.
I don't know if you need, just
Yeah.
talk to Fred, but
I just have one thing, Catherine. I forgot to mention this, but when we signed the welfare, it seemed like there was a large amount of money in comparison to what we normally see. And I don't know that we can even get information about that, but it was,
Sometimes when you have one that is cause for forced eviction,
you're entitled to that information. It's not public. So Joyce could get it for you and explain it to you, or you could talk one-on-one with Heather. We could have her here in a non-public, your choice, but you are entitled as a selectman to that information. Yeah, I know.
I do, I can say it's a large household, and it would be difficult to find suitable living arrangements for such a large household.
and Gail is the assistant welfare, so she'll know the circumstances. So you're entitled to that information. Motion to adjourn.
Everybody else up?
Motion to adjourn?
Already got one.
Second.
It? All right.
Aye.
In favor? Yes.
Aye.
Pat, motion to adjourn. You know, I need to
I have it, it's
apologize
right
for
here,
being
that's
so
yours.
disruptive.
Gave you one.
Yeah, so